This episode is brought to you by Beyond Pride. When you advertise with First Nations, make sure you advertise with pride. That's www.beyondpride.com. Pride spelled PRYDE.com. All right, guys, you are tuned in to episode 4 of The Creators Game. I'm your host, Deya Miller, and I'm joined by...
Jay Smith.
And we also got another guest.
Chris Vale.
And we gotta get to know you first. So tell us a little bit about you.
I'm from Long Island originally. Started playing lacrosse in 2001. Oceanside High School, South Shore, Long Island, kind of 15 minutes away from the ocean, 45 minutes away from Manhattan. Played long pole my whole life. Got into it. My dad played University of South Carolina. Letter came around in 5th grade, said, hey, want to sign up? I signed up. Been hooked ever since. Never put the stick down. Coached. Done camps, clinics. Now work at ILA Sports, slinging the gear. So just been a part of my life since 2001. So it's, 25 years probably? 24 years been doing it.
Okay, so like 25 years in the game of lacrosse.
Yeah, just been a part of my life for going to games, met a lot of people. It's definitely been a big part of me this whole time.
So like right now, like are you still giving it? Are you still out there? Are you right now? Are you just like coach?
So right now I help run the junior masters team. Willow Grizzlies. We're in the Ontario Masters League. We were pretty good last year. We finished 5th this year. Hopefully make another run at it. Played Chicky League with good old Dave Miracle. Guy's a legend. Help him run the Sunday Men's League with the Res Dogs. So Dreamcatcher tournament, Sunday nights, Thursday nights. Always stuff having good fun.
Chicky League. I think everyone on the res knows that.
Yep. And hey, we've had good players out. I've played with Austin Stotts there. The Hogan Andicotes came through. Always just been a lot of friends coming here in 2015 as a new guy. They embraced me. Just a lot of my best buds have came from playing Thursday nights and Sundays with all those guys.
And what would you say, like, you're not from Six Nations, but like you said, you just came here and you're embraced by, like, the community. What would you say was, like, something that you had to do that was just kind of, like, you had to, it's like, I wasn't embraced until I did this. Or, like, for lacrosse, it might be until you get your first goal, your first scrap, or get a rookie cut. Like, what was it for you that it was like, I wasn't embraced until this point?
I kind of had the opposite. I just felt like kind of right away everybody was just so nice. You go to places, people can be stuck up and stuff. Not here, everybody, it's a community atmosphere and everybody's really close knit. So I just felt like right from the get go, hey, I played, everybody, you just play tough, you play hard, you're a good guy afterwards, talk to everybody. And then just right away, I just felt like everybody, really embraced me as well. So it made it really easy to move here and to be friends with everybody.
Yeah, I always find that interesting, and like even from like a GM and like coach perspective, seeing the players kind of like start embracing other players. What do you think kind of needs to be done or need to be said in the locker room or something like that before a player's truly embraced?
You see an awful lot of it, especially when guys from outside the community come in. Prime example, there was a young fella tried out for the Rebels a couple of years ago. He was from Brantford. Brantford's not that far away, but he probably had the tryout from hell because they were on him. They wanted him. They push. He was in a fight almost every practice, and he made the team. So that to me is initiation by fire. It doesn't always happen. I mean, in Chris's case, we just kind of met at the arena. I've known him for quite a few years. I call Chris the Cliff Clavin of lacrosse because he knows every little detail and fact and anything you want to know, go to Chris. When I go to the ILA, if I know Chris is there, I know I'm in there for at least an hour.
See, this can work because you bring like the high level like GM expertise, and then like I can like because like sometimes I'll just say dumb things and I can be like, he can fact check me. This guy knows it, he can fact check me.
And he will.
Yeah, I always knew a lot of field stuff, and I've played Herkimer College, Utica College, different tournaments. I've met so many people, and then I started always being like, oh, I know this guy from this where and this guy from this where. And then you come here, and then just in a short amount of time, you start playing Ontario League, or we'd set up at tournaments or things, and then you start knowing everybody. It was kind of like a whole new experience, but then it also makes it fun then for these last 10 years where it's like a whole new thing to learn, and then just Point Streak and, Instagram and just different things of always just finding stuff out about guys or hanging out and doing stuff. And
Well, now everything's on Game Sheet.
Yeah. Yeah. As I said, Game Sheet, I'm like, man, I wish it was so easy to go on for all the different teams, and now Game Sheet I'm on. Like I haven't even seen the Rebel stuff get updated yet for the playoffs on there.
Well, what's funny is the Chris said he works at ILA Sports, so I will call there, and right away I'll ask for Chris, and if he's not there, then of course I ask for Brandon. But Chris is usually my go-to guy because he tells me honest, lays it out there for me. This is what it's going to be. This is when it'll be here. 9 times out of 10, he's spot on with it. If there's stuff late, it's on the shipment end. It's not on the ILA end.
Yeah.
But Chris is my go-to guy at ILA Sports. Shout out to ILA Sports.
Yep, good stuff, ILA.
Yeah,
Really,
Shane
home of
was-
champions, home of champions.
Yeah,
the
Shane
Mecca
was,
of lacrosse. ILA.
Shameless plug right there. Shameless
Yeah.
plug.
Yeah.
So, like, who was, like, some of the legends that you have played with? Or, like, maybe some of the players that you're just, like, when you came here, you're just like, I want to square up with this player, or I want to learn with this player.
Like it's pretty cool sometimes. Like playing even Sunday leagues now, you get guys like Tommy Montour, guy's a legend. Corey Bomberry, or you're out there with like a Roger Weiss, and just different guys that have. Austin Stotts, his last year of high school, he's coming out every Thursday night, or DeHoga is coming back from IMG playing, and like some of my like favorite, like I'm a big Tyson Bell fan. That was really cool. I got to play Six Nations on the men's field team in 2019, and I'm playing long pole, slashing the guy. And the guy's like, I'm not going to dodge on you. He's like, the Team Canada helmet's the slide guy. And I'm like, it makes my job a lot easier. So, me and him have been friendly ever since, and I'd say he's a friend, and it's been fun just kind of, and then just the atmosphere of that team. Even the one time, too, I was like, we were playing Hamilton, and we're up a goal, and I said, here, take my pole. You can go out there and guard the guy. And then he ended up stripping the guy, and I was like, we won the game. That was pretty fun. Nick Davis was running the team then.
And you said he only did that because he was using my stick?
Yep, pretty
Come on
much.
now.
Pretty much, yeah. It was a fun year.
What would you say is, like, of course, this is a very generic question, but, like, what is the biggest difference between field and box? But, like, not necessarily playing it, but, like, the mentality. Because I feel like in a field, like, it kind of feels more free that, like, like if you don't want to get be in the midst of all the action, you can kind of go just be off to the side. But in box, you have to be there.
Box is just so much more quicker, and then the fact it's way more physical. Like even like when you're playing field lacrosse, I always grew up playing long pole. Half the game, you're just staying on the other side watching, shooting the shit with the attackman, like stuff. You try not to sometimes, but obviously in men's league and stuff like that. And I'd play like Caniac Summer League's a big league by me, and we'd even play like NYPD, FDNY, stuff like that. That stuff was always fun. But like box, you're not out there, you can't talk, or you're out there the whole time. You're playing your shift. You're coming back to the bench and then going back out there for defense, like in my case, or offense if you're an old guy. And the big thing I always thought too of playing wise for box lacrosse being an American was when I listened to NLL guys like Brett Manny and different guys be like, oh, I'm playing defense and I'm getting, your picks you're getting hit in the back and stuff like that. And just how the Americans just had a hard time adjusting to the NLL game of box lacrosse. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not playing that caliber, but you find the same kind of differences, or, oh, that was tougher. Like, yeah, you're getting basketball pick in lacrosse and field, you can get around it. And sometimes in box, you're just getting hit out of nowhere. You're getting slashed. Like, it's definitely a way more physical game, box lacrosse, in the field.
Yeah, that's what I've always felt, is just that, like, box lacrosse, especially just for watching in general. Like, if you go to, want to watch a game, box lacrosse is very, very fast-paced. Like, you can't, it's very exciting for me as, like, just someone as a fan who, like, I don't play anymore, nothing like that. But, like, as a fan, it's a very, very fast-paced game. And what I like about it is that, like, you can be up and then you can be down and it can go back and forth. When you first got into lacrosse, like, you said you didn't start in box, right?
No, so I would have been field player. Like, even boxing in the U.S. isn't like box in Canada. So my first time I came up with my buddy Andy, we were going to Utica together. We come up in 2012, and he's like, here, there's this pickup league. Don't go on because in field, you're kind of shooting more on the outside. So if you're a righty, you're going down that left alley, where in box, you want to go down that. You got to keep your stick on the inside. So it's more or less almost like basketball. So definitely a couple of times would go down my wrong side and you're getting yelled at and stuff like that. But like the thing is too, even about guys around here, hands. Like even when I played high school, we had a attackman go to Harvard, D2 Malloy, Hobart. Guys go to Hofstra, Colgate, Hartford, and Connecticut D1. But the guys around here, you're growing up, never putting the stick down. The hands are just, you can't replicate that, right? And a lot of American guys and field players can't replicate the hands and the behind the backs, through the legs, and just catching in tight and shooting on the outside. Like,
Well, there was a big movement a few years back when every school wanted the Canadian box style player. Over the years, well, several years ago, I had the privilege of coaching in the Team Iroquois minor national box and field program, and there was a travel team here. There was a couple. One was the Royal Reds. I had helped out with them. Great bunch of kids. The one, Willie Sky usually head coached those teams. I helped out when I could. The one was called he called them the Thunder Tribe. They went to the IMG Academy and actually won the national championship at IMG. We've had teams from here go to the Dick's tournament, Dick's Sporting Goods Tournament of Champions, have won that tournament. And but you're right, the box game is a lot quicker. It's in tight. It's faster. It's rougher, and our guys would get called so many times. Like even if they're playing junior varsity, we'd ask to play varsity rules because our guys are used to the contact.
Yeah,
they're used to setting the hard pick. You're right. U.S. players aren't. Will I say they're soft? I won't say that on the record.
like we always like to say, like, oh, Long Island guys were tougher than the Maryland guys or the upstate guys. Or I go to recruiting camp. We used to go to Top Star, and the one time the guy's like, I like you guys because you're the gold chain wearing guys, and we were like trying to get into Dickerson College. Give that coach a shout out. I don't remember his name, but
Give that coach a
yeah,
shout
like, you know
out.
what I mean. Like we were always, because we were. I remember guys in my high school, they went down to Navy camp, and that was the first time really experiencing Maryland guys, and they were like, oh, you're a bunch of flids, and they were like, what's that? And they're like, oh, you're a Long Island dickhead or douchebag, whichever one you kind of want. But we were always kind of the, tougher guys, but definitely around, like, the box game is just so much, you got to be tough to play. You can't, and then you hear sometimes, or even, you hear stuff, let's say the U11, one of these U11 teams or something the other weekend, and I was talking to the dad. I was like, oh, your boy made a nice hit. Yeah, too bad those parents on Burlington were yelling at him to get kicked out the game. But it's like, you're going to get hit. It's not non-contact hockey, it's a physical game.
The thing that the U.S., any team we played against in those tournaments in the U.S., and the same goes for even playing nationals here, all you got to do, or all allegedly you have to do to beat Six Nations, is run. And we've heard that for many, many, many years. And it's true that U.S. players are trained to be faster, because they are. Team Ontario players are faster. Team BC players are faster. But you're right. Here, it's the hands. And oftentimes the hands and the heart has got us through games where we were getting outran.
Like, I like to say Six Nations is the Mecca of lacrosse, because, like, you guys touched on it, I think, in one of your last episodes, all the teams, like how much lacrosse is played here.
Yeah.
Or even you're driving down the, fourth line, fifth line, first all the way to seventh. How many lacrosse nets do you see? You don't see that anywhere else. Or you hear stories even about guys live here from other reserves, and how they're like, oh yeah, Six Nations, like, watching the Haudenosaunee Field this year in San Diego, how many of those guys not from Six Nations currently or had once played for a Six Nations team?
Oh, for sure.
Everybody pretty much, right? Like,
so last night in our away game, I ran into this fella come up and talk to me. His name's Ian Knott. He's Deacon Knott's father.
Yeah, he probably wants him to play here so bad.
Well, I asked him, was he related to Derek Knott? Derek Knott was on the 92 Arrows.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
Derek Knott, he was a phenomenal player, tough guy. Ian Knott told me, he's like, Derek still, every place he goes, the Six Nations, everything. So it was funny because we played against Deacon Knott last night, but Ian shows me a picture of Derek. Derek's got a Riverman hat on.
I met that Deacon Knott. He was a little kid. It was like my first tournament working out of LA. We were in Toronto Beaches, the Hill Academy tournament, the Jameson.
Yeah.
The kid that passed away. And Deacon Knott had Don Bosco on. That's the school in New Jersey. Not known really so much for lacrosse. They have a little bit of lacrosse. I think maybe Trey Deer went there recently. But Don Bosco and Bergen Catholic are the two big football schools, like tons of NFL players. So I was like, hey, do you go to Don Bosco? I guess he wanted to for field, but he was playing like attack then. Then we were set up at qualifiers, and here he's a box goalie. And I thought that's crazy too, of just your field attackman, but then you're a box goalie or vice versa. These guys just,
You see it a lot of
right?
times, like Matt
Yeah.
Vink, however you say his last name. Great goalie in NLL. Played long pole.
Right? Yeah.
Played long pole on Team Canada. I had the honor to coach with him and Micah Kersey and Jason Johnson in our fall field program here when a couple of the guys that are in the NLL now were younger back then. It was U16 squad, 2012. Yeah,
No.
that team was a force to be reckoned with.
Now, question is, does he come back to do the three-peat or what? 42 years old. He's under contract. I have to see, right?
Yeah.
How does that work? Can you expire your contract?
In the NLL?
Or do you just like outgrow it, or like not outgrow it, but like
So I know it's kind of like dated to that year, but then it's like if you get cut, it's not guaranteed. Where sometimes in the NFL or NBA, you get signed for this amount of money, they got to give you something of it. It's more or less like you're signing that 1, 2, 3 year deal just to go to training camp to get seen and kind of go from there.
so like what would you say is actually the route to getting to the professional leagues? Like as a player on Six Nations who is just like, let's say that like, you know, you got a 15-year-old out there right now listening to this show and he's like, okay, I want to be the next Marshall Paulus. I want to come right out of like junior and go like, how can that happen again?
Well, we'll use Marshall as an example. Marshall come out of minor and played Junior C first, actually. And Junior C it's a very competitive league. It's a rough, tough league. So for a lot of guys, you know, like there might not be any room. There's honestly so much talent here. There might not be room for everybody to be on whatever team they're trying out for. Marshall's brother Johnny tried out for the Rebels one year and got cut and made the Arrows. So I mean, it's a lot of, you got to move a lot of bodies. You got to weigh this, weigh that. Did Marshall come into his own fresh out of minor? I was on the bench that year. He was our leading scorer in Junior C. And after that, he just didn't look back. But I mean, for a lot of kids here on Six Nations, the route obviously is they want to be Rebels, they want to be Arrows, they want to get drafted. When it comes to stuff like that, if you're coming out of junior, if you're coming out of Junior A, the Chiefs, well, any Junior B or Junior A, the Chiefs have, they can put you on their protected list, which means they protect you from other teams drafting you, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to sign you. They're just making sure nobody else can get you, kind of thing. And every MSL team has that option to protect Junior A players coming out of whatever teams they're affiliated with. They have that option to protect them. Not too many Junior B players get protected. I'll use a friend of mine that passed away a couple of years back, Dean Hill. He got drafted to the NLL out of Junior B. But was he protected by the MSL or Senior A team back then? I honestly don't know. Chris probably knows that fact.
I know it was the Rebels and St. Catherine Spartans and stuff.
Yeah.
I know Wayne Vernevery was drafted out of Rebels. Dalen Hill a couple of years ago at Riptide. But like he says, it doesn't happen a lot. Chase Cosgrove, Windsor goalie, was drafted. But then I would say almost like you said here, everybody, you know, Rebels Friday night, want to be an Arrow, want to be a Chief or Riverman. And then there was a whole thing where the NLL, when they would announce guys drafted, they would say, this guy's from, you know, Limestone University, but they're like, oh, he really got drafted because he was the leading scorer for Whitby Junior A in the NLL. But so now they kind of recently doing both. The only thing you hear now more or less from some of the junior or like even the NLL scouts is the kids when they go to college, you're doing D1. That's kind of like a job there. So it's the training and the fitness is what your box skills in your summer game, but then also getting that fitness of those D1, 2, 3 colleges.
Yeah.
And then you're just coming back in a different beast.
So a lot of times too, you'll see, like for a lot of years, guys that were born in 96, 97, they idolized the Arrows, Sid Smith, Benny Paulus, Cody Jamieson, and then after a few years, everybody idolized the Rebels because they went on what was it, a 5-year run where they were undefeated and won the Founders Cup. I know they won it like 7 times. Is it 7 times they've won it?
Yeah, it was so Arrows, or we're saying Chiefs, right?
Rebels.
Oh, Rebels. Yeah, you figure what they won, what, 4 in a row?
Was it 4? But there was quite a few years where they didn't lose a game.
07, 08, I was just talking to some guy Saturday. They said, 07 team, they said they would take over any of the Rebels teams. And I was like, we'll have to do a dissection of who had the best teams. But they say that 07 team, they like the best because with the coaches they were talking to, they said, look at Clarington's roster we beat. Those guys are all still playing in the NLL. Mark Matthews, Shane Jackson, Higgins was the second, was goalie. And it's like, yeah, you guys aren't still playing, a lot of you guys, but hey, you guys beat a team during the Ontarios and then went off to win the whole thing.
So down here, it seems like I said, for quite a few years, everybody idolized the Arrows. And then after that, it was Rebels. Like Rebels would play do a full house on just a regular Friday night.
You know, Friday night football in Texas. Friday Night Rebels Lacrosse and Six Nations, right? Like, everybody loves it.
But a few years before that, say 2 years before that, it was Sunday afternoons with Arrows.
Yeah,
Barn was packed. I can't explain why the fan base switches. I don't really know. I know for our games we might get, if we get 300-400, we're happy. We'd like to get 1,000 people in that barn. Maybe for playoffs we will, but. It switches. I remember even back a few years ago, Rivermen packed the place.
Yeah, it's almost like there is so much lacrosse, so then people start picking and choosing who they're going to see or what nights are their kids playing, or that's the thing too, right? Minor games, right? Everybody's family's there watching somebody, right?
Yeah. Well, like it mentioned on a different episode, there's roughly 25 minor teams.
Yeah.
4 senior teams, 4 junior teams, a senior women's team.
Like, there's a lot.
So
we've got 2 masters teams,
Yeah.
junior and senior masters, right? Like,
So
there's tons of lacrosse.
Essentially,
here.
essentially that's two more senior teams in the masters divisions.
So like, let's say like you said you want like 400 people or something like at a Rivermen's game.
I'd like to get more than that.
Like how many people can the GPA hold? Because that's where you guys play.
Yeah. I just seen that number too. Off the top of my head, I'm gonna say 600-700.
Okay.
You figure a lot of standing rooms. I remember my first summer when they were playing those Rebels Aqui games for Ontario's. That was a packed place. Like, even the standing room, you're nudging everybody and trying to get in there. And
well, after if things go well with the playoffs, after the way the game went last night, if we play that team in the playoffs, we should fill it.
So we do got to get to that. What did happen last night? I heard there was a little bit of shenanigans. Tell us, give us a little insight on the game last night.
Okay, so Rivermen went to Brooklyn last night. Essentially battled for first place. Identical records. I think scheduling wise, we had one more game played than them, but we've only had one loss each, and that was to each other. At one point, I think last week in the standings, Brooklyn was first. Whatever formula they used to work out goals for, goals against, whatever, they had us by 1. So last night was a big game. It was basically a battle for first place, and we come out with an 11-5 or 11-6 victory. Game was called with 5 minutes and 5 seconds left in the third period. It was a little rough. I'll admit that. It was a little rough. See, a couple of years ago, this big thing come out about abusive officials. They have the right to stop the game, kick out everybody, whatever. And there's been a slide in officiating as to like guys don't want to ref anymore. So we have the officiating numbers have dropped as far as how many officials are available. Last night, I don't know whether those guys are regularly scheduled. I don't know whether they could have refed a different senior game and we could have had other officials. I don't know. In my opinion only, there was a couple of suspect calls. But that goes without saying. Every team, every general manager is going to say that there was suspect calls. Long story short, the referee, there was words exchanged after a goal. There was words exchanged. There was penalties called. I was actually standing at the other end of the arena talking with the commissioner. We were having a little chat, and we saw the referee throw his helmet into our bench, into the Rivermen bench. We saw him throw his whistle, and he walked off. And we're like, what the hell just happened? Come to find out, they had words. He basically said, if you think you can do a better job, go ahead. And threw his helmet and whistle into our bench and walked off. My question is, I don't know what was said. I was at the other end of the building. But what repercussions are there for him throwing his helmet and his whistle at our bench or into our bench?
I'd say he quit on the job, right? You think that OLA should do something in
Right.
line.
Well, you would think that. Okay, like let's take from like a structure standpoint. Like he did quit, but now you can be like, oh well, what's the OLA gonna do to say that like this isn't gonna happen again, and that this mistreatment isn't gonna continue?
Granted, my first thought is, maybe it's a biased thought. What would happen if one of us did that to Brooklyn, threw a helmet and a whistle at their bench or into their bench?
No, definitely.
What would happen?
They get all pissed off, and
Would there be suspensions?
probably or something. Yeah,
probably.
definitely. Yeah, like
There would probably be suspensions, and they would probably do it in a way that would, make it not yours. It would you guys are doing pretty good, so they would probably want to not see you do so good after that.
Well, I mean, I'll give the ref credit. It's a tough job because you're constantly getting yelled at by both teams, by the fans.
everybody hates the refs.
Everybody,
right?
everybody. You can be best friends with the ref off the floor, but on the floor, you're gonna hate him at some point, and I get it. And I as I got a little older, I've tried to reel myself in and say, okay, maybe he didn't see that because he has a different angle, stuff like that. But like we were reprimanded the night before about abusive language, swearing, arguing. We were reprimanded for that. So then one night later, there's this same ref standing at center floor, dropping F-bombs so the whole arena can hear him. I'm like, if you're going to call us out mid-game, please say something to this official, because you don't want us to do it, but yet, our captain runs up and tries to get a definition of what happened. What's the call? Why did you call this? Did you see this? And he's told to shut the F up and get out of his face. Where's the quality there? If I can't swear at you, why can
Definitely
you swear at me?
Unprofessional on their part, right? Like, especially as a ref, you're not trying to make the situation worse or instigate it. You're there to kind of cool things down, make sure things run smoothly. So when you start cursing and kind of riling yourself up, you're just going to make the situation worse. Just like the guy the other night with the arrows. Why is the ref grabbing the Six Nations Arrows player? And you know what I mean? He should have, if anything, he let them fight the Mimico guy. Or
I was there for that. I was at the
Yeah.
game last night. Yeah.
So there's videos going around of the Arrows and Mimico from like a couple nights ago.
Yeah.
And in the video, you can see the refs are only grabbing Six Nations players.
Yeah.
Why are they not grabbing men? If you're trying to break up a fight, and I get it, there was 3 or 4 fights going on, 3 or 4 fights, 2 refs. I get it. You can only attend so many.
Yep.
I've seen it when you get a higher level. Several fights break out. The refs just stand back and flip their notepad open, and they start, okay, number 16 did this, 17 did whatever. And then when they get tired, then they go to break it up.
Yeah.
I get that.
Because like you said, the refs, they don't need to get hurt either. They got jobs.
No.
They don't want to get in there. Or like you're just going to make it worse on yourself getting in there. You already got guys that are pissed off, and then you're getting in the middle, kind of grabbing out the Arrows guy's jersey.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes it look way worse than that guy doesn't even get a punch because the whole guy that's jerseying him is the ref.
I don't know. It's like I got a couple buddies at ref, and I've seen them take punches.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether the punches were on purpose at the ref, I don't know. But you see refs get the odd shot every so often. They're in the middle. They're trying to break it up. It's dangerous. I get it.
And like I said, it's a tough job. Like, and the refs are good guys, and like we said, I don't hate the refs, but I just know everybody else. Somebody's going to be mad at the end of the day, right? So, but yeah, it's tough, and like there's lack of refs in these kids' games. And then it stinks because then the minor kids get less games now because there's not enough refs, and something's got to change.
Well, like the thing is that like let's say a player did that. What would happen to the player?
That's what I'm getting at. Like,
Because like even players can't do that to other players.
No.
So how can a ref who is working for a large organization do that to a whole team, which is in Six Nations is a large organization. We got a lot of lacrosse and talent here.
Emerson Clark, he's on the Bandits. He played a little bit of forward this year, practice squad mostly, but he's an ex-hockey player. Like even went all the way up to Toronto Maple Leafs exhibition games. He was playing for one of the Florida, I think it was an ECHL team, just before COVID. So like February 2020, a whole fight breaks out. The ref's kind of driving him to the penalty box. He jerseyed the ref. It's kind of a little off camera. He got a 16-game suspension. That ultimately, that and COVID, I guess, ended his pro hockey career, and since he's been in the NLL. But
yeah, that's
like
a
you
legend
said,
right there.
Yeah, like you said, you can't really jersey refs and
what more could you want, man? You're a legend at that point.
Yeah. There was an incident in last night's game. I mean, it's against Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn and Six Nations Rivermen are a huge rivalry. They are. They have been for a long time. It's almost as big a rivalry as Rivermen and Owen Sound.
Definitely, yeah.
So there was an incident last night. One of our players kind of locked up with one of their players, and they were jostling back and forth. You know, refs are getting in. There's no punches thrown. They're just kind of they locked horns. Again, I was at the other end of the floor. I was down by our bench. The incident happened at the Brooklyn bench. Our guy come out of it with huge red marks on his neck from the ref pulling his jersey, choking him with his own jersey, essentially. When he come out of that, his helmet was twisted. I don't know if the Brooklyn player did it. I don't know if the ref did it. I don't know. On his way by, he tells us there was a racial slur thrown at him, so he threw a punch at the bench. One of the Brooklyn players threw a punch from the bench, and I don't know whether he threw a punch and had his stick in his hand or threw a punch and swung his stick at the same time. I don't know. That's what it looked like from my end. Again, refs may see it different because they were from a different angle. However, in the OSL, all of our games are supposed to be taped. Now, I've asked for the copy of the whole game to see what comes out of this because another one of our guys got an abuse of an official penalty last night, got kicked out of the game. And now after this official walked out, the other official was asked, what did these guys say? Because the player on each side both got the same penalty. Said, what did these guys say to you guys? That I didn't have the conversation. I don't want to mention who did. But the conversation with the remaining official was, what did those guys say to you guys to get this abuse of an official penalty? And the remaining official was like, they didn't say nothing. They were chirping each other. He's like, then how did they get this penalty? So essentially, verbally, I'm told it was wiped. I'm hoping it is. If you go on game sheet, there's no abuse of an official penalty on there by this player. So I mean, stuff like that, like, how does an official take when if you and I are chirping each other, and Deya's reffing? Does he sit back and go, "Oh, you both called me names and threatened to kill me"? We're talking to each other.
Yeah. Like,
but is that how he interpreted it? I don't know. Could an official interpret it like that? Obviously, because it happened.
Is he just like when they say the refs, when they start calling everything in, it's like, we're not here to watch you, ref. Does this guy just think everything's about him? And these guys must not be talking to each other. They must be talking to me because everybody must hate me. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. But this same official that walked out, I was told last night too that he also did it in the ALL. He was reffing in the ALL and did the same thing.
Like, we know that's a semi-pro league, so it's like you can't really be almost professionally ref and then doing stuff like that. Like,
that's still kind of like funny to ask a ref, like, oh, what did he say? Like, because like in the heat of the moment, like, players will just say the most wildest shit. Like, they'll just be like, I'm going to end you. And it'll be just like, oh, it's on. And, like, I can just imagine a player saying the most foulest stuff and a referee would have to repeat it.
I heard that happen.
He said something about dude's mom and, like, you know, like something like that. Like, something stupid.
Like, I heard that happen, that this guy walks off tells the guy, oh, you ref, or whatever happened. But then when I seen the video, I was like, what? Because it looks like he was going to the face-off draw. The next thing you know, it's, you know, he's walking all the way over. Boom. Like, what the heck's this guy?
Like, that's just it. Like, what is going through that particular official's head last night. Again, my opinion is probably biased because I'm the GM of the Rivermen.
Yeah.
Do I feel some of his calls were pretty blatant
Was it 90
against us?
90 penalty minutes? Was that?
We had one player to 32 penalty minutes himself.
No, that's a lot. And that's like almost like to have that many, you got to have like a fight or I mean, do something crazy, right? Like
Did
run in
that
the
come out of that
stands
little
or-
incident where all these guys did was lock horns?
Yeah.
Our player got 32 minutes in penalties.
Yeah, you'd have to run our test, run into the stands or something like that. You'd
And-
32 minutes.
The other guy that got, again, I'm hoping that verbally when I was told his penalty, his abuse of an official penalty was cleared off the slate, I'm hoping that actually did happen. He had 14 minutes in penalties, not including this abuse of an official call. So we started the second period last night. We were up 4-3 at the end of the first. We started the second period with a 4-3 lead and having to kill a 14-minute penalty. And then through the course of the game, other guys get penalties. We literally played that whole second period shorthanded last night and outscored Brooklyn 6-1 in that period.
And like you said, that's with them having, was Deacon starting?
Deacon not played the whole game. I
He's
mean,
backed up all year, young goalie for Philadelphia Wings, so they don't got no schlub in neck. And,
no,
you know,
like he won the Minto Cup with
Yeah,
Burlington
yeah,
last
yeah,
year.
he was a big reason
He's
why.
a good goalie.
Yeah.
He's a really good goalie. I'm told our team's intimidating.
And it's tough because it's almost the same way as like last year. I know you had the instance with Senior C, and they were too intimidating, right? Then we would play Masters, and they'd say, "Go play Senior C." You know, it's almost like sometimes everybody hates it when Six Nations gets a little rough and tough, or you know what I mean. Like everybody's kind of scared sometimes, right? They tell you this league and this league, but it's like, oh, it's all lacrosse. Like everybody's just playing hard, having fun. And,
Admittedly, we had a couple of new acquisitions brought in.
oh,
and,
definitely. You got the Mimical Mauler on your team, so
yeah,
I mean, he's a
shout-
scary guy.
Shout out to the Six Nations Fire Department and Rory Smith.
Yeah.
He was in the game last night.
Yeah.
We've acquired Tyson Bomberry.
Another good, hell of a player, right?
Yeah.
Top 10 NL draft pick.
Monster kid. Hits like a truck.
NYPD Six Nations cop.
Yeah. SNPD officer. Yeah. Yeah. He's a monster. And much like when you talked about Tyson being the slide guy, our Tyson is our slide guy, and he loves it. His father's Timmy Bunbury. Timmy was a monster on the floor. Like Tim won like National Defensive Player of the Year awards in like Man Cup series and
I've
stuff.
seen Tyson hit a couple guys and they go flying into the boards, and good face-off guy too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like you said,
Yeah.
you got some Zach Haywires I've seen picked up.
Yeah.
He might not be there for intimidation, more the scoring, but like,
Zach, he's shifty. He's very shifty. He compliments our lefties because our power lefties, Danton Miller and Jordan Durston, great hands, cut to the net hard. Might not be the fastest guys on the floor though. And Zach comes in and he's got that. He's got speed.
and you get him with Durston. I know from being friends with Durston, him and Haywires played. I guess Haywires grew up kind of in that Wallsburg area before going to Strathroy in London, so
Yeah.
they kind of had that connection in minor, played all together with Bandits. So then, it seems like they're happy being back together again.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
got that connection on the left side.
Well, I'm glad that that Zach came on board. I jokingly laugh and say, I'll even sell my own kid when it comes to being a GM. It's all business because I did sell my own kid. But with Lane leaving, there was a big empty spot
Definitely,
on the
yeah.
left side. So Zach has a different style, but he certainly is contributing on the score sheets, and that's what we want.
And I'm sure he's the type of guy you always hear, like times I've been in the River locker room past years or other times, especially those senior locker rooms, Chiefs even, you hear Brad Cree one time talking last year, they love finally coming down to Six Nations, some of these guys, because they're like, oh, we battled. They know it's such a lacrosse community, and once they get here, they're like, wow, and everybody gets behind them, and I think Travis Bland said it back in the day, like you said, you heard Brad Cree, just different guys, like once they finally get down here, then they don't want to ever leave again.
What I've always heard was that because Six Nations is such a respected community for lacrosse, like a lot of players would like dread playing Six Nations, but like once they come and play for Six Nations, they just love
Yeah,
it.
100%. Yeah.
And then not only that, some of the players would just like love the backing, love the support, because like Six Nations is such a supportive community that like they probably in their community they might not have had that many people in the fans or something like that.
Like even just like Brendan Montour tonight for Game 7. Do you see Waterloo doing that for their guy? Or you go around Brantford, I don't even see nothing. Or maybe even Burford, I haven't gone there, but how much backing the community gets behind even Brendan Montour. Then all their players, like you'd see stuff like even this year, everybody, they're rooting for guys. Those Final Four NLL teams, Six Nations was coming home with a cup because all 4 of those teams had guys from here on it, and key players too.
Well, I don't know about 2024, but a couple of years ago, Six Nations put out the highest number of professional athletes per capita just for lacrosse.
I have a good question for you guys. Speaking of Brandon Montour, so say he was not a NHL player playing for the Cup tonight, would he be on the Chiefs right now?
I could definitely see him being like an NLL player.
I can from an athletic standpoint because the kid is a super athlete. However, he would have had to make that decision quite a few years ago to take the lacrosse path over hockey because he played for the Arrows, he played for a Minto. Now, after that, he went right back into hockey.
Yep, yeah.
Like, he was your typical 2-sport athlete.
Junior, and then UMass, and then pro. So
yeah, and would he be in the NLL? I think from an athletic standpoint, absolutely he could be in the NLL. But, again, in my opinion, that path would have had to been chosen several years ago.
You've seen a lot of, like, you look at some of these rosters, there's like I said that Emerson Clark, Brandon Robinson, Dawson Theed, a lot of guys that have played some high level, Quebec League, OHL, and then they've end up being, the hockey route didn't work out, or they played Kufla hockey, and then they end up, playing NLL because the NLL's got tons of guys that have, especially obviously, you're in Canada, tons of guys that play junior hockey, even Brantford Golden Eagle, Ryan Benesh. You're like, oh, this guy played junior B hockey, and this guy played here, and then there's a couple of guys in football. Tyler Digby played university football. I think a couple of guys currently even have played some high level football. So it's just crazy how even in lacrosse, how athletic everybody is.
Well, young Brody Thomas.
Yeah. JUCO football, right?
Yeah, he plays JUCO football in California.
Yeah, and then if you ever watched Last Chance U, Laney, and then even Last Chance U, the basketball. As far as I was always told, California JUCO is kind of, you're not getting like the full amount of money and stuff like that. Like it's kind of a grind route to take. So I mean, he's a tough kid, so obviously going there, football, he'll get picked up somewhere, and that's why
Well, it depends on the area. JUCO lacrosse in the northeastern United States, it's a quick route to D1, D2.
Definitely. NASA Community College was pretty much everybody went. Like I almost went there for a second. It was like this guy got kicked out of Stony Brook. This guy got kicked out of here. But the whole team, pretty much the whole team that was sophomores should have been technically juniors somewhere else, and then all the freshmen should have been. But like that was those guys were all hell of a team. And a guy from my town, Nicky Polanco, my high school coach, years before me, he's like 96. They won the Long Island Championship. I guess like would have been Desco at the time, or the Syracuse coach back in the late 90s, comes down, but he had no grades. He goes to Nassau, then 2 years at Hofstra. Then he's MLL Defender of the Year USA. So that was a big thing with me when I got into lacrosse in 2001. We started going to Hofstra games. They had 2 guys from my hometown playing long pole. I just happened to be 43 at the time, my 5th, 6th grade year playing. And then Nicky Polanco, like we loved him. Me and my buddy Matt Dito was his name. We used to wear like the leg band, and it was cool at the time having a guy that you kind of idolized. And then he played your position and stuff like that. Because my first year of lacrosse, I signed up in 5th grade. There was one 5th grade team, 2 6th grade teams. Pretty much all the kids that signed up that were new in 5th grade all got put on the shitty 6th grade team. We lost every game. then the next year, and I come from a big town. We have like 6 elementary schools. So I was technically the only kid in my grade, about like 80, 90 kids. And I went to school 9 that played lacrosse, but then ended up meeting all the kids from the other elementary schools. So then middle school, I knew everybody already just from sports. But in 6th grade, we won every game. So then the one other kid that was on the 5th grade team's like, opposite of last year. So that was cool. I had my first year of lacrosse to lose every game. Then my second year of lacrosse, got back with the kids in my own grade, and then we won every game.
So what was your hometown again?
Oceanside. So how they kind of do it in New York State is you go by population, and that's how they technically rank like class A, B, C. I think now there's even like D. So we're like I graduated like over 600 kids. So we're class A. We're playing like Massapequa, Farmingdale, East Meadow, and then even like Garden City. They're always like Garden City Trojans. They're usually B, Manhasset C, and then they're always two big names. And then I'd go to camps and stuff like that, and they'd be like, "Oh, you play Garden City?" I'm like, "No, technically we're in A, they're in B." But,
Well,
like,
that's how it is. Prime example, McKinnon Park, Blue Devils. They've been a powerhouse for a few years,
yeah, this year I won again.
and they play single and double A at OFSA because of the school population. Like I remember Assumption in Brantford, Assumption College. They're triple and quad A because of their population of their school. And the one year they won it, it was a powerhouse team. Austin Stotts, DeHoga, Mike Kid Lane, Dougie Jameson as Fogo. There was a killer team. Blake McDonald on that team, Braden Hill.
Tons of NL
Oh,
guys.
tons of NLL guys. But they were triple and quad A because of the school population. There was a lot of talk that McKinnon Park may or may not have been able to beat them. Guess we because when they would play in their zone games, oftentimes McKinnon Park and Assumption would play. But they came to play each other a little more after that year that Assumption won, and then Caledonia or McKinnon Park was walking over everybody, even triple and quad A schools they were beating.
I think this year they said there was like 40 something kids that went out from McKinnon Park
Yeah.
Lacrosse.
So even though they're a smaller population and have to play for, I won't say it's lower level skill wise, but it's lower level when you look at single and double A and as opposed to triple and quad A. Would McKinnon Park be able to beat a triple and quad A championship team?
So what would St. Mike's like in those schools when they gonna get in? And then the big thing now too is almost with high school, all the Canadian kids. It's crazy they all go to prep school, but prep school's like, I don't know if some of these schools are giving these kids scholarships. You're looking at like back in the day it was like 50 grand. I once played on this Long Island Sting team, and all those kids were kind of coming from everywhere, and they were going to Deerfield and that Salisbury school and everything, and then they're all. You know, my mom just looked into it just to be curious. I wasn't going to go there. But, like, she was just like, oh, my God, these guys are paying 50 grand just to go to 1 year of high school.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, like my oldest son, hell of a box player, hell of a defenseman in box, but never played field lacrosse. I'm not even sure that McKinnon Park had a field lacrosse team when he was there. My other kid, he started getting emails in grade 9. Inviting him, recruiting basically.
yeah, all the camps and stuff.
And he had a crack at IMG.
This is Lane we're talking?
Yes.
And you figure even back when his high school years, that's when everybody, like Brendan O'Neill, he's like a PLL guy now, just graduated Duke. The guys were committing in 7th and 8th grade to school. So like, definitely they were looking at kids so young then. It was just like,
yeah. And
now
then
they switched it around. But
they're like, I think IMG tuition that year was $75,000 for one school year. I was buying a house, so I'm like, yeah, I have money to, because they said we'll pay his tuition if you pay his travel and insurance. I was like, well, I'm going to use that money on a down payment on a house.
Yeah.
Because to me, a forever home is a lot more important than 1 year of high school.
Definitely. They'll find him.
And I mean,
The coaches, they'll find him.
he was upset. He was kind of because at Assumption, they even had a big, going away party for him kind of thing because he was going to go until we got that price tag dropped on us. We're like, I can't. And so then a couple of years later, DeHoga went. I'm not sure what the tuition was. I'm not sure what he had to pay, if anything. I don't know. But it would have been cool to see them two in the same uniform
Definitely.
in Florida.
Yeah.
And then look at the path DeHoga went. You just asked earlier what path. A lot of kids do go to these prep schools. Like
A lot of money to be had there because I think the IMG was Bolletari's, was tennis school. Then they started doing, there was the one big soccer guy that went pro. Then they got into soccer and tennis. And then next thing you know, boom, they're
Well, IMG didn't start out as like lacrosse was kind of an afterthought.
Yeah, it was tennis and soccer.
I was
everything,
told that both Manning
Football,
brothers
I
went
think.
there for football. Not sure if they did or not. RG3, remember him? He used to be the quarterback for the Redskins. I was
Yep.
told he went there. Again, I don't know. I was told the Williams sisters went there for tennis. I don't know.
Though, yeah, they definitely did because my cousin, he's like a lot older than me. He went there for like one random year in like 19, it must have been like the 80s when they were Bull Terriers, but then he left, but all those guys were there. And he kind of went there for a little bit. My aunt at the time was like paying for it, but he was getting like free stuff from like McEnroe and those guys. So like, I don't know, like, I can't remember. It was like, yeah, but it was all those guys were generational tennis guys.
Yeah.
And then he left.
And
He was
then here there's.
I got a question for you.
All right.
Have you guys been seeing stuff about the Haudenosaunee Sports Development Group?
Yeah, like Johnny and Winster's thing.
No, that's
or like Kevin Sandy's stuff. Is it Kevin Sandy's thing?
maybe Kevin
And
Thomas,
yeah, him. Yeah.
Cody.
Yeah.
I just wanted
They're kind of in
they
that.
used to help student athletes kind of navigate the path between for elite student athletes to navigate. The
Yeah,
pitfalls of that transition from school to post-secondary to like collegiate athlete to
Yeah.
even professional.
I've seen that. I've heard of them. I've seen that they help out a lot, and I'm kind of glad they do because oftentimes the focus is strictly on lacrosse.
Definitely.
And I mean, we are a huge lacrosse community, but there's other student athletes that are playing
Get the
softball,
education.
basketball,
Yeah.
football, and they're tapping into that resource, and they're able to go do these things.
Because like you said, like lacrosse community, but then I mean, Six Nations has got tons of hockey guys, like baseball. There's basketball guys. We're talking about a kid going all the way to California for college football. There's,
Yeah,
there's a lot of sports here to be played. A lot of good athletes.
yeah, for sure.
Wasn't the other kid going to D1 baseball in the States? Was he going to Missouri or something like that? I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but
And then we had another guy go to Alberta for football just recently.
Austin Gallo Henry.
yeah, that was cool. They played in that. Even that they won that arena, the arena football
Yeah,
league.
yeah,
in
he played at
Oakville. That was
Oakville.
cool.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
cool.
He's a big kid.
Yeah. Lacrosse guy too.
Yeah,
right?
he coached him in lacrosse when he was younger. Actually he come out for a couple of teams. He would get let go, and sometimes it was my decision, sometimes it wasn't. And he would always ask me, "So Austin, if you're watching, here's the real reason." I knew his heart was in football, and I knew that he wouldn't be able to commit 100% to lacrosse like we needed him to. Huge kid, hits like a bus, fast.
He sent some kids flying for sure. I've seen. a
Yes,
couple of hits that
but
he
the
said.
thing is, deep down, I knew his heart was in football, and he's playing semi-pro ball in Alberta right now. So obviously, his heart was in football, and it still is. I mean, he still loves lacrosse. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. So it's one of those which sport do I choose kind of thing.
I remember you were saying that like this makes me think of like how you said that like he was like his heart was in like was into football, and you could tell he's built for football.
Oh, 100%.
Like he is built for football, but like thinking of like a utility player and like someone who could just like put them right in front of the net, just stand there or something like that. Like, do you think a player like a player like that who like could be just used for one specific reason in lacrosse could ever actually make it to like pro and just be like, yeah. Like we literally we are paying you to stand in front of that net because you're so good at it. Like not just because they're just abnormally like, built for that, but like maybe they're good at like just right in front of that net. That's literally all we want you to do is stand in front of that net.
Well, it's funny, and I'll use Austin as another example. He was the ultimate utility player because if we put him on offense, we would tell him, all we want you to do is go out there and create space, set picks and create space. And the kid can because he's 6'2", 6'3", and like 280 pounds, and fast. If he was on the D end and pick off a loose ball or fight for one and pick it up, he would be gone. And there's nobody gonna. Kids have tried to step in front of him, and he just run over them, go to the net. And when he was younger, he was also a goalie. So yes, he was the ultimate utility player. Can you make it into the NLL being a utility player? Sure you can. Can you make it in the NLL being a one job, one specific type of player, sure you can. If prime example is a draw guy, face-off guy, that fellow that the Bandits brought in.
The Connor Farrell, he's just another guy. He played even CW Post. Now it's LIU. He was D2 lacrosse and football. I think he went there for football. He said he wrestled the guy, lacrosse guy in the dorm room, joking around, and then he lost, so he had to go out for the lacrosse team. But hey, all he does is draw. He's not gonna. I wouldn't put him on offense. But they got him in there. That Max Alderman, another American faceoff guy, I guess job reasons didn't play or something. And once they got Farrell in there, they were winning all the draws. And kind of they already had Dane, Burns, Priolo, Matt and Net. They just needed him just to kind of get the possessions so those guys can score, get the ball to those guys. And
Well,
score.
what about the utility players who are just scrappers?
That almost seems like it's dying out a little bit in the pros.
It is, yeah.
You kind of got guys that can still fight, but almost like they're kind of almost like they said in hockey too, like they're kind of have to have some skill.
Yeah,
Like they're not
well,
just straight fighters.
you had like guys for the longest time in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
Every team had at least one enforcer.
Yeah.
Every team you had to have it.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the NLL.
Tim O'Brien,
Yeah.
Drew Candy,
Those guys are
Rory
like
Scrapped, right?
those guys. When you mention them, like you can go on YouTube and punch any one of their names, and you're going to see hours of footage of fights.
Mm-hmm.
We got Rory Smith on our roster, the Mimico Mauler, as they affectionately call him. Super duper guy.
He's a good defender. I feel like though. Too.
He's.
Like,
But oftentimes he doesn't have to fight, and I think that's what it's getting to now. You're right, guys that are fighters, they got to have some skill too. But is the fighter just the fighter role exist? Solely as a fighter, I think it's dying out. Chris is right; it's dying out. You're not going to get signed to an NLL team just to fight anymore because the game is too fast. What happens is you get probably 4 or 5 guys on each team that are skilled, that can put the ball on the net, that can play good D or whatever it is their job is, but they can also fight. Going out there assigning just a fighter now, if you're sending that example, you're going to get chastised for it. I've already been raked over the coals a couple times because I have Rory on the roster. Everybody's like, you're only bringing him in to fight. No, watch him play defense.
he's right on, guys. He's not.
And not to mention that, like, because he can fight and other players know that, just put him on the floor and he'll intimidate the players enough.
You saw
got
that,
his-
didn't you?
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, don't leave him alone.
He's got
Leave
his
him alone.
Woody out there, and I remember
Yeah.
last year that one game I went to when they were playing Owen Sound. This guy had come off the bench and he boom right on him. Then the next guy came off, and then he's went right to him. And those guys never even win the offensive zone because he just
No.
caught him right at the door. And next thing you know, he's got 2 guys, and next we were playing 4-on-3 because he's just got these 2 guys just push them both, and they're both just flying back into their own bench.
Well, and it's funny because last year Rory played C-ball with us with the Tomahawks. I mean, he's given his work schedule. Family time. I get it. Games are few and far between. That we told him how many games he had to make for the playoffs, and those games is what he came out for. Just his presence in the building, the whole atmosphere changed last year. Every time he walked in the building, the whole atmosphere changed.
Cool thing about Rory, both his brothers, Riley Smith, now on Penguins, won the cup last year with Vegas, and Brendan, New Jersey Devils, 24/7 did a whole thing when the Leafs and Detroit Red Wings played a few years back in the Winter Classic. And he got brought up the pictures of both brothers at NHL, and then it's Rory in a Six Nations Chiefs jersey with his Man Cup. And they're like Rory, and then their brother Rory's a pro lacrosse player, but the picture wasn't of him in the NLL; it was him with the Chiefs with his Man Cup in hand on his parents' mantle that they were showing on HBO.
Yeah, and then like another prime example, Brad Cree,
Good defender, and he can
great defender,
Yeah.
and he can scrap.
Steve Perola, another Chiefs guy, he great defender, he can throw him.
But did the Chiefs bring them in to be fighters?
It's like you said, almost intimidation wise too. They're big guys; they'll hit you, they'll slash you.
Yeah.
Kyle Rubish, another big body, tough nosed defender. He's gonna. That's kind of why their team, who's really beating them. But we'll have to see.
Billy O'Brien, did players their team sign him to fight or to take up a defensive role?
Because I mean, for him, it was just like, for him, always like he's gonna beat up by the Dawsons in the NL, and then kind of in Can-Am, yeah, he's beating up Joe Blow. That's like, but and, that Billy, he seemed like a nice guy. I've talked to him before, stuff, but it's kind of tough because when you're playing the tough guy role here, but he didn't have any stick skills. Or I talked to my one buddy that played with him a couple of times and things, and for a guy athletic, he said the problem with him was his hip movement. He's like, oh, he's like jacked and everything like that and can run straight, but the feet movement's kind of what got him like. And he came from a football role, and but and, but then the Dawsons, when they caught him, right, then they ended up getting him. So
that's a long reach up though. Like those boys are both taller than I am. I'm 6'2".
Yeah.
And if you type in Rory Smith fights on YouTube, first one you pull up is he's fighting one of the Dawsons.
It's like, because you see, it's Rory Smith was it New York Titans, Orlando Titans, and then Colorado one. He's got one on every team he's played for on YouTube.
He's got a whole reel of like fights.
Then there's Jeff Snyder. He was a face-off guy, and then there's a couple. I think he fought him too. Like he was all on Calgary and stuff. But like you said, almost a role. That guy was just a straight, really face-off guy. / he'd scrap. And I guess he played field in Denver. Talking, I don't think he really came from a field background, but I remember inside the Lacrosse article years ago that he had arraigned it in field, because that was the thing too. Sometimes you don't really see many fights in field, so then sometimes those box guys gotta, because if you're really kind of tossing a guy on the ground, you're getting straight booted out the game, not in the box.
And another example of guys that are great players but can fight. You don't see many people trying to grab a hold of Zeddy Williams.
No, definitely. Yeah. he was cool talking about playing when I played Slash, and he went to was on Native Sons Out School to play versus him, and he was still at Virginia at the time. But then too, even all his brothers had Virginia stuff on, so you're like, but you still knew who Zeddy was. Yeah, he was a hell of a player.
Another great guy off the floor, but like quite literally a monster on the floor. Well, does he go looking for fights? No, but Willie and Kenny, oh yeah, he can. But he's a scoring machine, and he's a monster. Like he just had a Buffalo Bills tryout.
Yeah, and like you said too, like he's Buffalo Bills, and then last year Haudenosaunee, they just throw a long pole in his hands. The guy's, I'm pretty sure he still holds the record for most goals or points in New York State high school lacrosse. And then he could easily be one of the top attackmen on that team. But then they were like, here, we need a long pole. Threw it to him, and he's just hammering guys and laying bodies. And he was like an all-world long pole.
Yeah, and he doesn't normally play long pole.
Yeah, that was the first time everybody kind of seen him in that tryout. A picture floated around, and they'd all just thought he was messing around, like in between drills or something like that. But here he actually played, and he guarded their best guys. He's guarding the Rob Pinnells and, all the top attackmen, Jeff Teets and all those guys. And he's got the footwork, so he's going to, he stayed with all those guys. And
all right, we're going to take a little break, and then when we come back, we're going to be talking. I have some questions here this time.
Okay.
But I want to know, playoffs is coming, right? So, like, everyone made their trades. Is that, like, did everyone make their trades?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, something's brewing. We'll have to see.
Okay, well, I'm still going to ask you about some trade updates, and we're going to talk a little bit about playoffs because we got through the little bit of the shenanigans, but we're going to get back into the game and talk some local sports when we come back. This episode is brought to you by Beyond Pride. When you advertise with First Nations, make sure you advertise with Pride. That's www.beyondpride.com. Pride spelled PRYDE.com. All right, we're back to the Creators Game, episode 4, and we're going to talk some local sports. Lot have been going on since the last podcast. So let's just start with this week. Last night, it sounds like you were at the game. So the Arrows won 9-7 over Whitby, correct?
Yep.
Okay. When I left, there was a little bit of like shenanigans going on, like again with the refs.
Yeah.
So like, was that going on throughout the whole game? Because I only got to see the end of the second and the full third.
I don't think really the whole game. It looked like Kenny Porter and a guy were getting into it, and then the ref again pushing the Six Nations guy away and not the Whippy's team. But I mean, that was a hell of a win by Arrows. Not only did Brendan Anderson went down to Rebels a couple weeks ago. It seemed like they lost a couple other guys. They traded away Thunderhill to St. Catharines. Some guys suspended from Friday. Rebels playing in Cambridge. They called up a bunch of junior C guys too, and I'd say that's a hell of a win for the organization. Whippy beat them earlier in the week by a goal. Whippy's one of the top teams. You know, they kind of had a lot of adversity there, but I'd say the organization came through it, and at least they're still kind of in that playoff fight. Yeah, they're the outside, I think, looking in right now, but they at least still have a chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah, like again, I wasn't there for the whole game, but what I did notice is, do you think that, I'm gonna pick on the juniors a little bit. Do you think that they kind of antagonize the other team a little bit more than they should?
I think sometimes that happens, and I don't know if it's just kids nowadays. Everybody gets kind of cocky, and a lot of kids are all. But yeah, sometimes I think it happens because it's better too. Even like you don't know what's being said from the other team, but it's almost better to walk away because that whippy or whoever it is just trying to antagonize you to get the penalties because they want you in the box as much as possible. Because what's better than a power play if you're the other team? You want to get on those power plays, so they're gonna draw and suck you in. You just gotta, just not take part in the bullshit. You gotta walk away. You gotta, you know, get them the next play. Get them in a legal slash or a hit or just score the goal, and that's the way you got to beat the teams. Instead of like, especially, they hit you, you hit them back. The second action always gets caught by the refs, the teacher, no matter what it is, right? So I think it's better kind of walking away and rather than getting sucked into the BS that takes place, especially in junior games for sure.
Yeah, I find it's a lot in the juniors, and like you've coached juniors before, right?
Yes. Yes, I
So like, because I feel like, so you're growing up, you're playing lacrosse, and like once you get to juniors, it's kind of like you really got to man up. Like by this point, like you're a man essentially. So it's like you can't be on that like childhood mentality of like just talking smack for no reason. It's like, hey, we're here to play a sport. We're here to play a game. Like we are here for a reason. What do you normally say to the team if you see a player that like physically they can play and like they got everything going for them, but like maybe mentally they're just they don't know how to shut their mouth or they don't know how to just stick to the game.
Well, the psychology aspect of it is in junior, you get guys that are coming in 15, 16 years old, and in some cases, there's junior players that are their last year junior, they're 21. So you got kids playing against men, and oftentimes a young guy will come in, run his mouth. Maybe he thinks he has something to prove, or maybe he's got a lot of pressure and yeah, I got something to prove. And oftentimes you'll see younger guys, they do get lippy, they push buttons. You'll see a guy that's 20, 21 that's been in the league a while. They just go over and slap him around, and that's that. A lot of times the kids got to learn in the moment on the floor. From a coaching standpoint, I'm always like, you guys are playing against men in some cases. Watch your mouth, and if you're going to run your mouth, make sure you can back it up, because oftentimes lacrosse fights are done in the first couple of punches. And what happens a lot of times too is Rebels had a bit of a tilt there about a month ago. Young guy Leighton McDonald.
Yeah.
He got thrown. I mean, Leighton's not a big kid. Luckily, he fought somebody his own size. It was a good tilt. But I mean, also I noticed too, the older guys, they'll just brush the younger guys off that are running their beaks. They're just like, get out of here, kid. I'm going to eat you for breakfast kind of thing. I think the mentality is a lot of these kids here, it's been their dream to put on a Rebels jersey or an Arrows jersey. In some cases, maybe some of them only want to play for the stealth. Like you get some kids that I'm happy at Junior C. I'm still playing. I'm got my stick in my hand. If I don't go anywhere else, I'm happy with that. And Junior C is a rough league. They call it the jungle. And sometimes that's where a player is you make or break, because again, we'll go back to Marshall. Marshall is a phenomenal player. He can fight, but I'd rather see him putting 5-6 goals in the net opposed to going out there scoring one and getting a fight and getting thrown out. So that's the other thing too, is you got to get across to the players is, are you hurting your team by doing so? Or were you sent out there to purposely do that to send a message? Because as a coach, sometimes that happens. You tell them, we need this guy taken out of the game. Don't hurt him. Don't hit him dirty. If you're gonna draw a penalty, take him with you. So sometimes it plays out. sometimes it doesn't.
In some of these fight videos, especially from junior, some of these kids aren't even dropping their gloves or their helmets. Or junior C, the guy's stealth guy beat up the Brantford guy. The Brantford guy had his stick in his hand. People were chirping him on the comments on Instagram. Come on, man, that stick wasn't going to protect your face. It's like almost like some of these kids are not really ready for it. Almost like, you know, or like Jay said here, they're flailing around, and by the time that their arms are flailing around, they already got knocked out and they're on the ground because they don't even know what hit them. They thought they were a little tougher sometimes than what they are sometimes, some of these kids.
Yeah, that's why I say, like, I think it's like, even like you can play intermediate, right? You know, but like if you're like, oh, okay, you want to go up and play junior, it's like you're probably going to take it a little bit more serious, and you're probably built for it a little bit differently because, you know, like when you have smaller players go out there, usually those small players are actually really good, and that's how they're able to survive, because you're not going to be able to survive being a small player who's just like mediocre.
Well, it boils down to smarts too, you know, game IQ, knowing the floor. A small player, because he's had to play a certain way his whole life. I'll use Vern Hill as an example. Vern's not a big guy, but the smarts that kid has can't be taught.
Speed, stick skills, right?
Oh yeah,
he's picking up pass off.
Knows where to be, no anticipation, knows all of that. And like you had mentioned, intermediate. A few years ago, I coached the intermediate team, or U22 as they're called now, and that was the year our junior C team had folded. So essentially, my intermediate team was the junior C team. We were really good, and I said to the guys, "Stay here, and you can get AP'd up to junior C, to junior B, arrows if they want you. Senior, Austin Garlow, a few years back played intermediate for me. Ended up playing for 5 different teams that summer by being AP'd up.
Because like you said, yeah, there wasn't a junior C team here, but Jay had the guys affiliated with Wilmot Junior C, so they're all going there. So he had, like, I think Todd Thomas played a couple of games. Mike Martin Abel's your goalie, but then he ends up AP in there and getting games in. So
yeah, guys were getting called up to the Rivermen, to Wilmot. They were getting called up to the Rebels. So they were, like I said, Austin played for 5 teams in 1 year. A few years prior to that, I had an intermediate squad then, and I had I don't know if there's an official record for it, but I had like 4 sets or 5 sets of brothers on that team. And again, guys were getting AP'd up 3 and 4 teams. So essentially, instead of getting a 16-game season or a 20-game season in junior, they were getting our 12 or 14-game season in intermediate, and then getting 5 or 6 games with the junior team, 2 or 3 games with the senior team. So they were getting 25 and 30 games.
I'm talking at the Oakville Riverman game last year. I think it wasn't a playoff game, it was just a regular season game. Talking to Eddie Cuomo, the Georgia coach, who happens to coach U22 for Hamilton. I don't know if he's doing this year. I know he did last year. His sons and stuff were on the team. He was telling some first-year guys, hey, son, Hamilton U22, you're going to get called up Brantford Junior C. You're going to get called up Hamilton B. You're just getting way more games. So some of these kids are playing over 25 games, playing some tournaments where it's good for their development, because Junior C regular season just ended. Junior B just started the playoffs. If your team's knocked out, you're done by July or first week in July, where if you're playing the U22, you can also still, they might still have some more tournaments, zone, provincials are in August. You're getting to play your summer. You're not done in July with 2 months, nothing to do.
It was pretty fun coaching U22 because I coached against him.
Yeah.
So like,
guy's an NLL championship coach, right?
Yes, he's an NLL championship coach. It felt really good when we used to beat him.
And I think that's definitely a cool thing too, because even like last year, I'm watching the U13-3 team, Six Nations. Lincoln doesn't have they don't have anything below a 1. Paul Day's coaching. His kids on the floor with all wing stuff on. Like, it's cool how a lot of these coaches and players give back, and how much even in minor lacrosse, you don't see guys in the NFL. Tom Brady's not coaching his kids' football team versus you, but in lacrosse and in Ontario, all these guys are giving back, and you're gonna see all these star players and coaches, just at a regular rink.
Years ago, Whitby Provincials, the Whitby Tyke team came out, so they're all about this tall. They're like 5 years old. Coached by not 100% sure, but I know Adam Foote's kid was on the team, and Adam Foote had outfitted the whole team with matching gear.
Nice, yeah.
So, NHL guy suited up this whole
Must have been
little guys.
Yeah, one of his 2 boys, right? And
Yeah.
both current NHLers. so
Yeah,
pretty
that was
cool.
that was pretty cool to see.
And then, like you said, I thought one thing cool, even Brendan Montour tonight, was like, I remember seeing him at it, watching him, must have been his brother, or he had a family member playing junior C's at a game just before he just had left UMass and played those few AHL games. And then, but the really cool time was Peterborough. I think it was the 2019, so it would have been just before COVID. He's in the stands watching. Nobody's even really bugging him. And he's just like still on the Ducks end, I believe.
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
it was Sabres at the time. But I'm like, oh, this guy just came out just to watch Chiefs or a lot of guys he's played Rebels and Arrows with. And, you know, just seeing guys around Lacrosse and seeing big names and guys around the rink. Stan Jonathan, you figure I've seen him at those Bull Hunter Cups back in the day in Rochester. And just you see a lot of guys around.
Well, Brandon's brother Colin, we call him Con. He was on a couple of the teams that I had the privilege of coaching. So, like, shout out to Con, because
Yeah.
Con's still a hell of an athlete himself. I tried to get him to play lacrosse a couple of times, and he's got other stuff
He
going
played
on.
at
So.
Arrows and Junior B, different teams, right?
Con did, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he went away to play too. I think I'm not sure if he was.
Yeah, I think he might have
Wallaceburg or
played finished up in Wallsburg. Yeah.
But yeah, he played minor here. He was a great kid.
So we talked about Arrows. What about the Rebels? The Rebels are playing tonight versus Cambridge.
It's funny you bring that up, because being in the senior loop for the last few years, I kind of lost touch with junior players, who does what. I know a few of them. Rebels played last night against Cambridge. I believe they lost to Cambridge last night.
Somebody was saying it was not bad even about Cambridge. Nick Thomas, Six Nations guy, is captain. They got Rolando Henderson, Six Nations guy. So even guys playing other places, it's nice that other guys are from here and then they're going somewhere else and having success. And then they have their goalie, I believe he's on a U22 card himself for Cambridge. I think his name's Talon Sandy.
He's from
He's
Saskatchewan.
Moved here with his family. They're like living in Brantford, and he's playing for Cambridge. It sounds like he's wants to be full go in Ontario. He's trying out for the First Nations team and leaving Saskatchewan. Team out Saskatchewan. and
He's a reason why I want to go watch this
Yeah.
series. So
so definitely got some local guys. Got another native guy from Saskatchewan on the team. So
the Rebels, you had said it. They got Brenny Anderson.
yeah, he'd probably be the big.
Giant of a kid. Dalen Burning.
Mm-hmm.
So you got one guy on the lefty side on offense, one guy on the righty side on offense, and they're both like 6'5". They both have been called up by the Rivermen and have did quite well. So, is my eye on them? Of course it is. Joe Squire,
Hell of a player too.
another phenomenal lefty.
young guy, second year.
Yeah, he's young.
He'll go and get the ball in the corner, come out with it.
He's played for us. He's did quite well too. Like these, it's not necessarily the size of you. It's when you get to a higher level. In my opinion, it's your IQ.
Definitely, like you said, smart player. Even big fan of Joe's game. Like you said, he gets in the corner, he'll hustle, get it out, and then like his stick skills, and then also he'll whip it around. You know, he knows when to throw the fakes or when to pass or when to shoot. And like I thought, even like getting Brenny they lost kind of close a couple Wednesdays ago, regular season. Then I thought getting Brenny on helped, and I guess I wasn't at the game last night, but I said 10-10 going to overtime, and then I figured they play the full overtime. I know different leagues, all these rules change all the time, but I seen it was 13-10, so I could see the Rebels winning tonight. Like they got the guys, they just gotta.
And Brenny has a hockey connection. He was an
Yeah.
OHL player.
Yeah, yeah.
So, again,
He plays baseball too, but his dad's Shwegen Redmond. So
Yeah.
a lot of athletes around here, guys can play anything. Put a ball in their hand.
That's literally the thing with Six Nations is like, just like, I can't remember. Someone like had it like mapped out for me, like the square footage and like the population and of like how much talent is on here, like from Six Nations, and like how many people have been to the Olympics and like all these different sports that like have come from Six Nations. So it's really cool to see, like even outside of lacrosse.
yeah.
So like, and then that actually brings me to my next thing, Haudenosaunee Nationals Women's League, because I feel like that doesn't get enough like shine, or like people don't talk about it enough.
Yeah. these women that have made this team have made history because this is the first Haudenosaunee women's box team ever. One fellow that was a GM for the Rivermen for quite a few years, Jeff Paulus, he's just came back and joined us on the Rivermen staff. He's the general manager for that women's team. And I know Jeff is he's quite rigid when it comes to get to practice, get your workouts in. Like, he's got these girls working out at 6 a.m. And Jeff, a lot of them play in the senior women's league too. So like this weekend, Jeff was in Mississauga watching some of his team play because they play on a few different teams, right? So he's in Mississauga watching the women's senior league play, just so he can keep an eye on his girls that are playing on this team. And like those women are phenomenal athletes. Like Fawn Porter, for example, lives right here on Six Nations. Very humble family. Actually, I coached her because back then they didn't have a girls' league, so she played with the boys. She was actually the hardest hitter on our team back then. It was novice, of course, but still.
And it's cool too for her because she's been on the nationals for the sixes, and then the women's field, and then now you can add the box, and then Jason Johnson, head coach, Six Nations guy. He's been around helping kids in minor and GM of the Arrows, and then he's a head coach here. So there's a lot of Six Nations behind the scenes people and bench staff from here too helping out. And then Carrie Weiss, right? Carrie Lee Weiss. She's all world, the best softball, baseball player around, and then boom, she starts playing lacrosse. She makes the team, right? Another hell of an athlete around here, could do multiple things, and they got both goalies from here, and that. Women's attack team was good for years. So a lot of that core coming from there. And then it's nice to see, too, that Tanya Naga, I don't know if there were some girls from Oneida or there's a couple Aqui girls. So even seeing that there is a good women's box presence on other reses and just around, it's pretty good.
Well, I've watched a few of these. Like I had been asked if I would coach the attack a couple of years ago, and I have nothing against girls lacrosse per se. It's just a different dynamic, and honestly don't know if I could change the way I coach to accommodate a women's team, because sometimes I get a little abrasive. Knowing how our Haudenosaunee women are, they'd probably get right back tenfold. So.
I was gonna say, how would you coach that? Because you're a coach, you gotta be a little aggressive, you gotta be a little stern, you gotta raise your voice, you gotta say, hey, we're gonna do this over again. Yeah. But then you got a Haudenosaunee woman there being like, hey,
well, I got a couple.
I got kids at home. We're leaving when I say I'm leaving.
One thing I think that's cool too about the women's box is a lot of women's sports. The rules change and alter. WNB, different ball, different line, shooting threes, and hockey. I think there's some different rules. As far as I know, women's box lacrosse is the same as men's box lacrosse. Same rules, same ball, same nets.
I got a couple of cousins that were on the veterans with the attack team. Lindsay and Alicia Smith.
Good play. Alicia Smith also, shout out to her. She's on the team too.
Yeah, and again. We give it to the guys a lot. Like Father's Day was just last weekend. Some of our players didn't show up for an away game. I got Father's Day stuff, and we're all like, "We're here. We got kids." Well, in my defense, I was gone away, but that's the consensus. If guys are like, "I got Father's Day stuff," we got families too. We're here, but mothers, they have a different duty. They're, for the most part, a lot of mothers are literally more involved in their children's lives. So to see these women be able to juggle work, family life, I mean, the support they must have is phenomenal.
They're doing their kids' sports, their sports. They're everywhere.
Yes,
right?
Dads do it, but dads do get a break. I'm a dad. I'm a grandfather now, and I can admit, dads get it a little easier.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Honey, I gotta go play. See you later. Boom, they're out the door, right?
What I loved is how the community was embracing the team, but also what they do outside of the sport as well.
Yeah.
Because some of these players are teachers and service providers in these communities. And we should be championing them for that as well. And I just loved how the community came together and was we love lacrosse. But now we're gonna put you on, we're gonna champion you for everything that you do. And I love how lacrosse can bring the community together.
I know Health Services gave a shout out, and that was cool. Just these people are more than players, right? They're members of the community. They help out. They do a lot of things.
What's the young lady? She works at the fire department.
Yeah, they did too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jacobs, I think, right? Was her last name?
I
I think it might have been Jacobs.
slipped my
But-
mind on camera.
but
I can't remember.
Yeah, but like you said too, and here, we joke around. They got a lot of lacrosse guys there. And then here, I didn't know. Well, this girls, they've got some girls that play lacrosse and other sports, right? So
A lot of girls too. Still playing school lacrosse. Kenley Jacobs. She went away to college. Went away to university. Played box lacrosse. Never played field before. Gave field
nice.
lacrosse a shot and went in net. She was never a goalie in her life.
just kind of jumped
Especially
in there,
going
right?
in that, right?
Yeah,
just
and
throw
then-
a
yeah.
ball at me.
And she's a player. She's made the squad, and like shout out to all of our women that are playing, because in my opinion they do have a lot more duties than the guys do.
No,
And
definitely. Yeah.
I say that lightly because a lot of guys too have a lot going on. But at the same time, we have to embrace, like you said, the community's embraced this women's team. With all the respect, we need to embrace them and accept them fully as lacrosse players first, because that's what when they got their helmet and gloves on and their jersey, they're a lacrosse player. They're not auntie or mom or whoever.
No, definitely. Yeah,
They're
they're playing the
lacrosse
game just like the guys do, right? They're out there to win and compete.
I've
and-
seen some of these women they're in way better shape than some of our guys.
Yeah.
For real. Meekwan Telpin, phenomenal athlete, and she travels the world to promote and show
Yeah,
lacrosse.
like she goes to different places, right? And promoting the game and trying to get lacrosse in different communities and stuff. And like some communities never even seen lacrosse, right? But like they're bringing it to hit there, and here's some nets and sticks. And
She was watching one of the Rivermen practices, and she's like, "Do you want me to go out there and be the rabbit and show them how to do this?" Like, by all means, go ahead.
Yeah.
But again, we have to embrace all of them fully, and
first ever time, right? Like
Yeah.
they've had the guys before, but that's cool. And then different countries and stuff, and like even just the big thing is it's cool, like the Olympics and just growing the game and getting more eyes on the sport.
now
Right?
the question is, are you going to be in Utica?
Have to see.
ILA Sports needs to set up a booth in Utica.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there.
I don't even know where Utica is. I couldn't
Kinda,
even
it's
point
kind
out
of a
the map.
random. It's kind of a random spot. I actually went to school there for a little bit, Utica College, but it's like because like Herkimer Mohawk. It's like we'd say east of Syracuse.
Oh,
So
okay.
about like a good 4 hours from here.
See, I
and about
thought
like an
Utica
hour
was
outs-
another country or something
It's
like
still
that.
in New York, yeah, but they just that those facility there where they have like Lasnai and stuff, and then they really got behind the hockey. Like the college hockey is like good D3 hockey. They got guys and girls, and then they got an AHL team back, the Utica Comets, and they redid that whole facility there. So it's just really nice. And then Oneida, I think the girls team's going down to practice there, where Turning Stone Casino is. They built some whole big indoor box like facility and stuff too. So, and that's big for the States, because that's a big reason why I said like box lacrosse is everywhere in Canada has got a hockey rink, and that's kind of seems to be the thing, right? Every hockey rink takes their ice out. Box lacrosse happened in the States. There's not a lot of hockey rinks, and
Well, speaking
know.
of like arenas, like we got all these new lacrosse teams, and then we were talking about the we need another arena. Like, what would you say that like would it be more important to have a just somewhere place to practice, like another ILA, let's say, or do we need something bigger, or is another version of the ILA? So like let's just say if there was we got the ILA, but like say if you kept driving down like the main entrance and you went around it and there was something behind there or something like that was like the same size, or like do you think that we need like a big stadium or something like that? Is that how big lacrosse is getting on Six Nations?
I don't think you really need a big stadium, because that's I think the cool thing about the ILA is I was really pumped the first time I went to Oakville, and I was like, oh, it's the Toronto Rock Center, and I'm going to see this too. And then I was like, oh, it's a nice practice facility, right? Where I take people from other places, they come see ILA. That besides the history of all the pictures and stuff, you're like, this is a nice stadium. Like,
Because
you know what I
even
mean? Like,
in the comment section when I asked people like what does Six Nations like need, a lot of people said more stands at like the aisle. Like that wasn't enough. Like only to be on one side. They're like you need stands all the way around.
And I could be wrong on this, but when they built the ILA, I don't think the way it's laid out now, I don't think was the original floor plan. there was rumor that it was planned to build another pad on the other side of it.
Yeah, I think that's what I was.
Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I think it would be nice to have a bigger facility, and it's been brought up in conversations for many years. With what is their base there for NLL practices now? The Thunderbirds practice there. Do the Bandits still practice there?
The last I knew, they went to Oakville, but I don't know if it's just because Chugger, the GM Oakville Rock, and how that went. And then pretty much all those teams are still up there for the training camp. Usually the Swarm and
Yeah. So
Panther City's up there. Like how many NLL games where you can donations right to get to was, you had Halifax, you had Vegas. I watched Panther City. I watched Swarm. I can't remember if the Wings were there this year. In the past they have. So it's like all these teams are, running their Riptide practice there. I know that.
So with the driving force behind the ILA, one of them being Curtis Dyers, with the main one, and having all these NLL teams practice there, would it make sense to have a bigger building that potentially an NLL team could be called this home?
That'd be, and I think that's like really would be the cool thing is like if there was an actual like real game there, you know what I mean, or like they had their own team, like the Six Nations had their own NLL team. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Because what about this? What if it was like the Cayuga, like we use Cayuga? Because Cayuga's got a nice big arena there now.
Yeah.
And that could be another practice place, and then build another arena here on Six Nations, and then get a professional team, call it the Cayuga something, whatever you want to call it, but be playing out of Six Nations.
Well, I talked to somebody recently who works with Parks and Recreation in Brantford. Brantford is in the works to get a bigger sports event center, basically, to house the Bulldogs.
Yeah,
the Bulldogs are already outgrowing the Civic Center. I mean,
And they just got that redone.
And that was tough. I went to that game this year, and it was, walking because of all that standing room. You couldn't really walk because everybody is packed.
The Civic Center, it's. I mean, they did a wonderful job on it.
It's really nice that we would go there for our Thursday pick up lacrosse. And
Yeah.
And I think last week we didn't have a lot of guys because of how hot it was. And usually that was always one of the worst arenas. But I think they must have had AC going. It was actually pretty nice in there.
Brand new HVAC and AC system in there. So when I was in talks with these people, they had said it would be cool to have an NLL team in Brantford. And my first thought is, was that an Easter egg? Did you spoiler alert me?
Yeah.
Is this facility going to be big enough to host a professional team?
Think about it. I went to so many Rock games in Hamilton, and how much of that fan base was people from here going to watch. And yet they had guys on the team this year, but even in last year, the year before, right? Everybody's, you're 30 minutes down the road watching. I mean, obviously that's a big reason why the Chiefs games are so cool because there's even a lot of people they're like ball hockey guys in Bradford and Hamilton. They're just like, I heard the Chiefs games, you go $12 and you're watching an All-Star team. Like, like.
Yeah, for sure. So practice facilities, I think, again.
Even if they did a pavilion or something, right? Like.
Well,
those
there's
are
the
always
box
cool
over
too.
beside the arena in Ishwegan, beside the Six Nations Sports Memorial Cultural Center. It needs a little bit of work if you're going to have practice facility because it was built for ball hockey. And
You need a net around there or something.
You'd need that. I think you would need a roof. I think if it's going to be for lacrosse, you're going to need a different floor in there because the ball hockey floor is like running on a cheese grater.
Yeah, that's
If
stuff.
you've ever played ball hockey in any kind of league, the floor surface they have, if you fall on it, it pulls your skin right off.
A little bit of rain, you're slipping. Because the Welland Canal, I think, is like their like Ontario ball hockey or whatever it's called. Kevin Lidner, he's a guy from St. Catharines. He runs a whole Masters kind of charity tournament because he gives back. It's like Niagara Sports Youth. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he uses that to help give money back to kids in sports. He was helping people with ice skating, get buying lacrosse equipment, and it's right by where the Ontario Lacrosse Hall of Fame is.
Yeah.
And that they got it's ball hockey floor too, but it's big and it's got the nice pavilion and then a nice little land out. So the guy usually puts the beer gardens up and he puts his raffle tables and stuff. It'd be something nice where you get at least the roof to kind of in case something does rain or.
Well, the example I used was the in Onondaga.
Yeah,
Their field house.
that was nice. I got to play on that.
And
That was cool.
The walls open up.
That was really nice. It was really, and then that was 2019 I played there, so when that opened 2015.
Something like that.
Yeah, so even a few years later, and it was still looked brand new. They took good care of it and everything.
Well, and look at Tonawanda. In the Can-Am League, they still play out on an outdoor rink. Allegheny just played there yesterday, and they had to halt the game because it rained.
Even I went by Newtown. We were out there that one time, and we drove by. They had a little box.
Oh,
It wasn't.
a
It
little
wasn't.
box,
It wasn't in the best shape, but even it'd be cool to have like a little outdoor box where you can just go and shoot around. And
Yeah, for sure. Like,
I think Allegheny got some stuff too going on like that.
I
or-
don't know. I haven't been out there to, like,
Wow.
like I said, I sell my own kid. And
Yeah, we haven't even made it out there yet. Yeah.
So we're talking about other reserves. Let's talk about some of the reserves that come down here and play against the Fire and the Warriors, because they just played. They both played this weekend, and the Fire actually they won. They won. Let me go here. I don't even remember. 12-6.
6, yeah.
12-6 over the Tonawanda Braves, and then the Warriors won 13-12 over Tonawanda.
The Tonawanda game was big, I think, because technically the Warriors beat Tonawanda out, or no, sorry, the Fire beat Tonawanda out there, but the game before something was said, put it on Daga player, that guy got kicked out of the game for Fire. They wrote the wrong number down on the game sheet, so when that player for Fire played the next game, they had to forfeit that 12-11 win. And I know the owner and stuff, they were all trying to, hey, but you wrote the wrong number down. You know such and such got kicked out of the game, and you guys wrote down this guy. And I guess the ref and everybody, no, it's on the game sheet. And that poor kid got screwed out of 4 games, and then they had to forfeit that game. So I think the Fire was coming together pretty good. They looked like they brought in some different players and kind of now
I've
getting
seen that they brought in different players.
fuller roster, and I think they're putting stuff together because really I'd say they're like the third best team in that league. They lost both to Seneca and both to Onondaga, but they've pretty much beat everybody else. They technically beat Tonawanda twice, but even though only the one counts on the record, they beat Allegheny. I think they play them again this weekend, and they beat Tuscarora twice. So I'd say they're definitely, Obes, shout out Obes. He's a good guy, owner. He's, put a lot of effort into both of these teams, and I think he's done a good job so far. And Fire, that was a great game. Stove Harris, game winner. That was.
Oh yeah.
Those guys are fired up. They were up. They were coming back. Goalie got hurt. There's a lot of stuff in the game.
I even noticed that, like, with the refs of like that game, like I just felt like there was a lot of. Again, there's only 2 refs. There's how many players? How much can you really see? But it's still sometimes it's just like.
Always the Six Nations or Granite
like,
River
why
team
is
getting
it-
the
why is
calls
it
against
always-
them, right?
Why is it always Six Nations? Like, is there something going on here?
Yeah. No,
Like-
like you said, it's tough. And
And then, like, are these refs from here? Because, like, I don't think they
tec-
are, but
tec-
they're picking
technically
on us
the
or
2 guys I
something?
know. I think that one guy was from Cattaraugus reffing, and the other guy was from Buffalo. But so do they like the Tonawanda team more? Or do they more partial to teams in the league more? It's like it's tough, and then because they only had 3 on 5 for a good 4 minutes. 2 of their better. I'd say 2 of their better defenders were in the box there too.
Yeah. I just always think, like how you said, there's something going on with these refs or something like that. Because I almost feel like it's been going on for years. Not to say like just the refs, but like in general, like a lot of people, because Six Nations is so good, they'll just be like, we just want to see them lose sometimes. And it's like, I get it, because once you're the best for so long, everyone just wants to see you fall and stuff like that. But like sometimes it feels that like people will go the extra mile to just because we're Six Nations, and because we do have that attitude though, that like, yeah, we're Six Nations, we're gonna crush you type shit.
the thing is, and I've been accused of being cocky and arrogant, and sometimes I am. I'll admit that. Tomahawks, prime example. 2019, started the team, won the championship. Kind of butted heads with the powers that be. Left the team, come back a couple years later, got suspended for basically a year. Came back again last year. It wasn't a prediction, it was a promise. I said, we're going to win this again. We're going to. Call it cocky, call it arrogant, call it what you want, but we did. I wasn't lying. I made a statement. That's what the executive at the time brought me in to do, and that's what I did. It was overheard by fans in the crowd. A semifinal game we won. It was overheard that somebody higher up said, I wanted them to lose.
someone like higher up in the organization, like not just a fan,
the
obviously.
league, yeah,
yeah,
and
the
the league,
organization.
yeah.
Mhm. So when you're supposed to be unbiased, when you're in those positions and you're also supposed to be unbiased, how do you make that statement?
I mean, like anyone can make the statement.
Anyone can,
Yeah.
granted.
It might have been tough too because I think that person had some hearts and kids playing on another team, and then that's when they're not taking it out of. You can't be giving awards out or just favoring this one team. You gotta you can't don't root tomahawks. You're running the league, but you can't root against.
You have
Yeah,
to, you have to be
don't-
unbiased.
Yeah, you can't
You
root
have to be.
against. Yeah.
It's like timekeepers. How many times have timekeepers argued with players?
Mm-hmm.
They're in a position where they're supposed to be unbiased.
I heard my friend, he said his dad helps out one of the NLL teams, and I guess technically, even though he's a part of the team, he can't get a ring because since he's like a timekeeper, I guess he gets a trophy, but he can get a ring because then it'd be like, oh, are you going to throw this time up or mess with something? I guess that's supposed to be how the NLL thinks, right? So it stinks because you're part of this team, but you can't get a ring, but you got to be unbiased, right?
Well, and prime example, over the years in coaching minor, being involved with minor, it got to a point in St. Catharines a few years ago where I had to file a complaint, and we had to get this one lady timekeeper banned from being a timekeeper for all Six Nations teams, right, from paperweight up, because of some of the antics. Like she called me all kinds of names and challenged me to a fight one time.
No way.
She tried to score up with you.
Like, yeah, she jumped. She was in the middle of the floor, calling me all kinds of names.
Yeah, she deserves to be there after that. Yeah.
Referee in chief was up in the stands watching, like, and the way some of these arenas are laid out, there is access. Like if that arena in particular, the bench was divided by the penalty boxes, there was no barriers. And I'm standing on a bench trying to coach, and she's leaving her timekeeper spot and coming up behind me and swearing and yelling, and I turn around and she's like, kiss my ass, and blowing me kisses and giving me the finger, and she's 3 feet away. I'm like, how are you not in the penalty box where you're supposed to be? So it got to the point, not only for my team, but various Six Nations teams. I had a ton of people from here forward me written incidents of what happened with their own kids and their own teams. It got to the point where we were having, even at midget, 14, 15 years old, we had to put a parent in the penalty box so this woman would not torment our kids while they were in the penalty box. It would get to the point where she wouldn't let them out when their penalty was over. Or if the home team had the ball, she wouldn't start the clock to give them more time with the ball. It also got to a point again where she had there was a fight on the floor. There was some racial slurs thrown around. Surprisingly, not towards us. It was our team throwing the racial slurs around, and she told the refs it was this kid right here that said that, and it wasn't. Another kid came forward and said it was me that said it, and she said nope, it was this kid. It got him like a big long suspension and a hearing and everything, even after the other kid wrote a letter saying it was me, it was not him. So there was a big OLA hearing because we took money out of her, we took food off her table because that was her job. Well, timekeep against all the other teams in the zone. You don't got to timekeep against us. And it got to the point where we walked in and she was timekeeping. I told the officials she's not supposed to be timekeeping. We're not playing until she's gone. So every time Six Nations, at least the team I coached was there, the president of Six Nations, St. Catharines Minor Lacrosse, had to be there. And he would have to go and make her leave, which was probably really difficult because she was also his daughter-in-law.
I was gonna say that. I was gonna say whose wife was she, or like how was she related to somebody?
I won't name drop, but she was
But,
the daughter-in-law of the St. Catharines Minor Lacrosse president.
You know, this is enough right there. Yeah.
I'm sure Chris knows what.
You can say it. Fact check it. All right, we're gonna get back into some of these questions here. So I actually didn't get to the Rivermen because we're gonna save this for last. But
Okay.
some of the trades that are happening, like tell me about some of the trades that are happening throughout all the teams, though. And then because you did mention how that, like, you know, Junior C can potentially move up. or yeah, and then the junior B, and you have your eyes on some players. So the trade is not like the deadline's not done, right?
It's not technically done. There are deadlines and different rules, different leagues have different deadlines. I'm pretty sure across the board, July 1st is the date for your final roster. Some leagues will allow trades up until then. Some may not. Looking at junior players, I like to keep my eye on a couple just so that in case we have to call them up as an AP. One trade I was really shocked. Thunderhill getting traded to St. Catharines. That was a shock to me because Thunder's a good player. I get the politics of the game. I'm not sure why that happened.
He'll be coming on the show to let us know at some point. He'll be coming on the show.
We will ask him.
Yeah, we will. We will
He was
ask
leading
him.
scorer at the time. I know they got 2 second-round picks back. I don't know if there's any other deals. How many was Toronto or was it Burlington or was any other teams really like asking? I wonder because you're looking at a team's top scorer deadline. Things get thrown around. There was a lot
Like-
of Oakville sold pretty much all their teams.
Do the
so.
players find out like how this happens? Or are they just like, this is where I'm going, and that's all I know? I don't like.
It's a slippery slope because as a GM, if Chris is playing for, say he's playing for Brooklyn, I can't call him and say, "Hey Chris, you want to join us?" Because now that's tampering.
Yeah.
So, but if Chris went to his GM and said, "I want to play for the Rivermen," and he reached out to me, and I would say, "Talk to your GM, talk to your coach, let me hear it from them," kind of thing. Did Thunder ask for this trade? I don't know.
But hypothetically, that would be the route he would have to take.
Possibly, or St. Catharines GM, president, head coach, whoever could have got a hold of the Arrows GM, head coach, president, or whoever, and said, "What do you want for Thunderhill?"
Because you figure too, the Arrows, Nick Thomas, he's captain in Cambridge Junior B. He hasn't played Arrows. They have his playing rights because he's from down here, but he's been playing for Cambridge. They traded his rights to St. Catharines for a Noah Snyder. Looks like the kid's going to Marquette next year. I don't know if he's a St. Catharines guy, but I know he played there, and now he's been playing Arrows. So they've kind of made one trade with St. Catharines, a smaller deal, but I think Nick, he'll probably be a good player next year for St. Catharines. And then here they traded away their top scorer next to St. Catharines. So it seemed like they kind of had I don't know if it was Steve Toll, the GM still too of St. Catharines, or who they were kind of working the deals with. Seemed like to be the team they wanted to deal with was St. Catharines.
There can be so many scenarios when it comes to a trade. Like maybe like a player might want out. Maybe he has friends on that team. I want to go to that team. Do what you got to do. But you are right. Sometimes players can get traded and they don't have to be informed.
Then, like I said, junior is kind of a crazy slope because you only, they say the Minto Cup's the hardest trophy because you got 5 years to win it. Maybe one team's doing a little better than the other. You're in your last year here. We're going to ship you out, give you a chance at it. Where senior, you can, umpteen years realistically to win a President's or a Minto. Obviously, every player's got a deadline on how long they can play, but
So like this is a good question from two perspectives. As trading a player, like being a general manager, and then talking about like how much a player is worth, or who, like maybe not like maybe money wise, but like okay, I want to trade this player or maybe multiple players or whatever, because you have been through this where you've had to trade players, and you said you even had to trade your son. So like when you're going to trade a player, and like let's say even take your son's point of view now from the player, do you think that players go like, you traded me for him, or damn, you did me like that, you traded me or is it beneficial for the player like, oh well, I got traded for 2 players, or oh, I got traded for this player, so that puts me on that level, or and vice versa, or I got traded for that, now I feel like I'm beneath where I thought I was.
Again, it's a very slippery slope. Does the player want out? See, and what's the value of a player? Is there a going rate? Unofficially, I'll say yeah, but there's never like you're not going to get a sheet from the OLA that says player value. In the case of my son, he got offered quite a bit of perks to go play in that for this other team. And I've always said I'll never hold a player back. It stung because my goal was to win the President's Cup with him. The ultimate goal would be to win the President's Cup with him and my older son, who plays for the Tomahawks, to have them both on the roster. But with my older son, work schedule, he's got to worry about his family life, so the Riverman schedule didn't really work for him. Or that was the whole reason why he didn't come out. With my other son wanting to, there was talk of it. I told him I don't want to let you go. But if a player wants to go, all they got to do, especially going from OLA to Can-Am, they put in a transfer, and then you get an email from the OLA and Lacrosse Canada that says, "Do you accept this transfer application?" Like, what? I didn't even know they were gonna. I didn't even know they wanted to go anywhere. Or, like the GM for Allegheny reached out to me and was like, "How much do you want for him?" I'm like, I never ever once brought it up that he's my son. I just said at that time, he was our team leading scorer. He was the league leading scorer. This is how much I know comes in at the gate, roughly, because of all the people that come to watch him specifically, because they're all family. So I know how many people are going. This is what it's going to cost us per game if we don't have him. So this is how much we need for him.
That's what I was going to say too. I was wondering, like, the price tag, because this guy's $500, this guy's $2,000, and then you hear even in senior A the crazy amounts that get thrown around, right? And you're like, well, how do you put the price tag on these guys? Because it seems like a lot of money gets transferred.
Yeah, and not only that too, because like yours was like totally from a like business aspect of like, well, this player brings in 20 people at the door. This player is the heart and soul of this whole line. Or something like that. Then like, well, I can't afford to lose my whole heart and soul of this line, because now maybe this one player only scores maybe 5 goals a season, but he provides this safety for this line that scores hundreds. Like, so it's kind of like, how can you really evaluate a player being like, yeah, you're worth $500, you're worth 2,000, you're worth 20,000 or something like that.
Or are you worth you're one guy, you're a high scorer. Are you worth their third and fourth high scorers and their second top D guy?
Because we joke around, oh, this guy got traded for 12 balls and 2 rolls of tape, but honestly, there's a lot of money floating around in Canadian box lacrosse, right? The whole ACL. There's, this guy's getting like thousands of bucks. It's paying off a bill somewhere. It's going towards team dinners and like,
Yeah, because I can imagine that like thinking about even the perks and stuff like that. Like as a general manager, you gotta think about like how much a team costs. So like even what I think of is the movie Moneyball. Like, when I see a player, I see 40 goals, I see 5 home runs, or whatever sport you're in, whatever. But yeah, seeing the whole picture of like what a player like provides for a team. Like, I think that's a very interesting role to kind of have that bird's eye view of being like, okay, well, this player is, he's really good at defense. So like whoever we trade, we have to get someone who's good at D, and we know that this player can give goals. So like we'll take their 4th and 5th best scorer plus someone who can do D, because they have to fill all these different voids. So it's kind of like, you really have to.
And then in a situation like that too, like it wasn't just my decision. I try to be as transparent as I can with the players, with the executive, and like I said, Jeff Paulus came back, wealth of knowledge, that guy. We're pretty transparent with each other. If I'm not going to pull the trigger on anything without their input, and vice versa, they could come and say, hey, this guy wants to play for us. What do we got to do to get him here, kind of thing. Zach Harrywires was a prime example.
Won a President's Cup with Ladner last year, right? 2, yeah. And you guys got him.
And he played for Ladner last year and the year before, and he's been in the NLL. He's a great guy, and that's, to me, I thought, okay, this player left. He was the team and league leading scorer when he left. That is a big empty spot in my lefty offense. And then this guy comes along. I'm like, okay, well, he'll fill that spot. Will he score as many goals as potentially this first player was going to? or will he score more? I don't know. All I know is he complements the lefties we have. Yeah, let's pull the trigger on it. But there was input from Wayne Hill, our president. There was input from Jeff. There was my own input. We talked to our head coach Derek, even the executives, even Cap Bunbury, the founder of the team. He still has plenty of input. Like, Cap started the team, and generally what Cap says goes, and he puts a different look on things. We can be irritated and aggravated at something or somebody and listen to Cap and like, oh, okay, I see it now. But I generally don't pull the trigger on anything without a lot of consultation first. Sometimes these deals oftentimes they can be done in a day. With us, it's been taking 2 and 3 weeks because we want to be thorough. We want to look at every aspect. We want to do we just picked up Lane Hruska, goaltender, played for Saskatchewan Rush, played for them. Spent time with Coburg last year in MSL and Clearview. Young guy. He's got NLL time in. We have a great tandem with Dustin Hill and Elon Henhock, but come President's Cup, we got to take 3 goalies. So we picked him up. He reached out to us actually, and I didn't pull the trigger on that deal right away. I talked to Wayne. I talked to Jeff. We talked to Cheryl, our treasurer and secretary. Bounced it off of Corey Bunbury. He's vice president. Wayne's in communication with them all the time. And he tells me, this is what they said, this is what we should do. And I don't think there's been a situation where any of us have said no. We've all come to the agreement, sometimes with stipulations, and it's happened. Like, I don't know. I don't think, and I'll say I don't think because July 1st is still a ways away, but I don't see anybody that I would have to trade for to strengthen our team because our team is pretty strong right now. The nice problem that I have is there's so much talent. I gotta make room on the roster. I can only submit 25 guys.
And you have how many now? You got more than you got like
About 40,
35,
yeah.
bro.
What about you use about 40 cards for the year?
The league gives us 40 cards. I think I have 2 left. So I could potentially pick up 2 new guys. But you also have to get 4 games in to be eligible to play in the playoffs. We only got 3 left.
Yeah.
So another big acquisition we got was Tyson Bunbury. Former Chiefs, former NLL guy, former Arrows guy, big kid. His dad, Timmy Bunbury, was like Canadian Defensive Player of the Year a couple of years, won multiple Man Cups. Timmy's poured that knowledge into Tyson. Tyson is a very athletic kid. He's a monster, and kudos to Timmy because Tyson plays exactly the way Timmy did. Timmy's a very smart guy, very, very great coach. He was my mentor. Jason Johnson was my mentor. I learned so much from them guys. And then watching and learning from guys like Marty Stotts, Austin and Randy's dad. He's another very knowledgeable. He's cool. He's a cool guy. His coaching style was a little different, but I learned a lot from him. All of this I was never the good player. I sat on the bench most times and listened. I heard what coaches wanted. But to me, if you're able to take what's in here and interpret and put it out there the way a player can understand it. See, Timmy taught me the psychology of the game. Jason taught me the psychology of the game and how to give it back to the players. I was never a good player. I'm not even going to say I'm a good coach. I've been privileged to be on the bench with those great guys helping look over all of these kids who many of them have went on to the NLL. So when I got asked to join the Rivermen, that was a big family bonding thing because Cap used to play with my uncle, play for my grandpa. They won President's Cups together. Mm-hmm. So we've kind of come full circle, and it hits me right in the heartstrings. So am I going to make trades?
Even when you said like the line of command, like all the people that you have to go through before, like you said, like, oh, I didn't pull the trigger right away, or I didn't make that deal right away. Like the people that you have to go through, they know lacrosse, so you know you're in good hands.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like we each have a pretty much, because we're so transparent across the board. There is a chain of command, so to speak. Wayne's president. Cheryl is our treasurer and secretary. Corey's vice president. Generally, oftentimes Wayne will talk to them, and then Wayne will say, okay, I talked to Corey, I talked to my grandpa, talked to my mom, his mom Cheryl. This is what we think. What do you think? I see their point. I give my input. Jeff too. Jeff will say, well, this is what I think. This is what I see. And we all usually, like I said, there hasn't been a time when we've not agreed. We come to a consensus.
We come together as one mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like you said too, even instead of say usually it's the bad team selling, they go and sound they're not that good this year, I don't think, or they seem to be out of the playoffs. Last I looked, instead of getting their best guy or paying all his money or trading away some assets, picking up a Tyson Bomberry, local guy, they come out and play for us, or you get Kevin Owen back from Chiefs, or you know what I mean. You can kind of just
which we have.
Yeah. So it's like
we got Jerry Stotts.
Yeah, Jerry Stotts. So you're kind of picking up some. You don't got to get a team trading off their best guys. You can just get some top guys from around here.
I have been approached by a team that is lower than us in the standard to see if I wanted a couple players. I said we're full.
Mm-hmm.
I got nothing. I'm not going to give you what we have.
Yeah, they see dollars, and you're like, Jerry Stotts in NLL this past year, Tyson Bomber, Kevin Owen, he's been in NLL in the past. So
we got Bo Hunter.
Yeah, Bo Hunter, you got him back.
We got Bo Hunter. He plays for Halifax. Sammy LeClaire, Chiefs guy.
Yeah, currently he played every game this year for the
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Dusty. Dusty's our anchor.
Mm-hmm.
And he's on again, off again with Georgia. They call him up as needed. He also goes up and plays for the Chiefs.
Yeah, he got flown out. Was on the Man Cup team last year too.
Yeah. And then, like I said, we Lane Haruska now. It's a nice problem to have with goaltending because they got 3 solid goaltenders.
Mm-hmm.
Elon has been in the trenches his whole career. He's a young guy. I think he's like 27, young guy, but he's a team guy.
Good goalie.
He is a good goalie, but he understands. If I say, Elon, it's business. This is what we have to do. He's like, yep, okay, I'm all for it. Whereas other players would have threw a hissy fit. Like if I had said, I have to make room. Some guys would just, you see it. They never talk to me again.
Yeah.
It's business.
I'm never gonna come back out for this team. And
I've never not had to. I always liked Elon and his style. Elon's a great goalie. Him and Carter Romanek, the goalie for the Grand River Warriors last year, they only had combined with the Tomahawks, they only had goals against for the whole season of 3.5 goals against. Where do you see that's a hockey goals against? But I knew that they would both be in Senior B this year. Carter's in Can-Am, Elon's with the Rivermen. So they've both stepped up their game.
Yeah, definitely.
And we have to roll with 3 goalies. Injury-wise, guys need time off, whatever. Because in our league, you get fined if you only dress 1.
And you don't want to put the players in net all the time. You had to do it this year, right? One weekend.
Yeah, so when we only had 2 goalies, Dusty was away at Nationals tryouts, and we had nobody to back up Elon, so we had Denton Miller dress as a goalie. He even actually took 2 shots. So his save percentage is 1,000 because he stopped them both. And then the next night we were in Ennismore, and Dustin from Nationals trials was tired. We went with Elon again, and Wayne, our president, who is also registered as a player, suited up as backup.
Good thing he's Warren's brother, so he's some.
He had his twin brother Warren's Halifax gear on. So
right on.
It was, And it's the same with Danton. They actually thought it was Warren because
we were first trying to figure out who's that, and then we're like, oh, so maybe if,
they brought out the big guns, something like that.
If Frog Pond needs a goalie for men's league this year, if in an emergency spot, Dan may have to jump in net.
Yeah,
he's got the experience.
And that's the nature of the beast. Prime example why we need 3 goalies. 1 was away, and we only had 1.
Yeah.
And then the weekend after that, Elon was in a wedding. But by then, we had remedied it, and we brought in Haruska, so we still had 2 goalies. Well, because that was a tough spot to be in, because the fine is pretty high if you only dress 1 goalie.
Alrighty, well, that has it's been quite the long episode today. We definitely hit the mark today. I know, cause like the last couple episodes we've been trying to go over an hour, but we just haven't been able to. Not that we haven't been able to get there. We just kind of be stopping too early. But I want to thank everyone for listening. But before we go, any last minute predictions of this week, because we might not meet until, I don't know, like maybe this Wednesday or maybe next week. So
I got one prediction: Chiefs win tomorrow night.
Chiefs win tomorrow night. Well, that's kind of a given.
Yeah, at least these next couple of games.
They won like 12-2 or something like that the other
At least
day.
these next couple of games. They got Brooklyn. It was a good game out there last time. They got an NL goalie, Higgins, starts for the Wings. And I think Oakville next Tuesday and Peterborough. So next 3 games should be good to go to. And then, like I said, I think the Rebels game would just be starting. It was like 8 o'clock tonight versus Cambridge. Game tomorrow night, Chiefs. And then Arrows play Wednesday night, ILA. So like we said, Six Nations, lacrosse never stops. 3 nights in a row. There's games going on.
Rivermen Friday night in Hamilton.
Yep, there we go.
Rivermen Friday night in Hamilton.
I
You guys,
I
think
picked
it's-
Rivermen.
I think I seen minor night for Super Series kids, right?
Yeah.
Go in with your jerseys on, Six Nation Minors. They
We're-
got teams in there. Wear your Six Nation Minor jersey to the game.
I think we're at the Lawfield Arena.
I think that must be why, because Super Series, right?
There was a venue change, so the game's been put over to, I believe it's a Lawfield Arena this Friday night.
You've had good games with them in the past, right?
We've
this
had
season?
great games with them in the past. The Hamilton's a tough team. I'm not being cocky. I am going to predict that Rivermen will win. It's getting crunch time. We've only got a few games left.
Got some different guys in the lineup from the last 2 games. And
Yeah, I haven't seen Hamilton since we played them. I don't even take the time sometimes to look at other rosters. I'm sure that they're loading up because they're going to be in the playoffs. So I'm expecting a good game. I'm expecting a different game. This is our first game in Hamilton this year. It's our only game in Hamilton this year. Barring of whatever happens in the playoffs, we may run into them in the playoffs. I don't know. I don't know where they're gonna finish. I know where we're gonna finish.
It's nice too. They left Oakville, so first year in Hamilton, and then
Yeah,
neighbors, right? And you brought that Oakville rivalry over to Hamilton. It makes it a little closer.
Well, and we ignited that rivalry first game that we played them at home, and we played them I think 2 weekends in a row, and they were good chippy games.
Back-to-back Fridays, right?
Yeah, and I think we got a new rivalry started with them.
Yeah, there we go.
Great guys on the bench too. A good friend of mine, Matt Atwood's on the bench. Vince Longo,
Longo, yeah.
local boy. A couple local boys. They're on the bench over there. Some Six Nations boys on that team as well. Mike Martin Abel, Vern Hill. Yeah,
Definitely get out there Friday and watch.
Yep. So if you guys are listening now, make sure you get out, check out all the games, and leave comments in the comment section. Let us know if Six Nations lacrosse is trash. Let us know who your favorite team is. Let us know who you play for. Leave all those in the comment section. Start a debate, and let us know what you guys want us to talk about. Who you want us to have on the show next? Because we do got Marshall Paulus said he would come on. Who else did I say?
We're thinking Thunder Hill.
Thunder Hill, and then from Brampton.
Oh, Kochi. Straight from Japan, straight to he's came to ILA for years. He's playing Senior A, Clearview Senior B. The guy who loves lacrosse. He'll drive anywhere, play anywhere. He loves it.
He brings his own inflatable goalie.
Yeah.
Even in warm up, we played against Clearview, and he's showed up with his own inflatable goalie. He's on the floor before the team is to warm up. I mean, I met Coach a few years back. He has the heart for the game.
Yeah, he
So
loves it.
I'd love to have him here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got a lot of cool guests lined up for you guys, so make sure you stay tuned. Thanks for tuning in to the Creators Game Podcast.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. What were we at? Time?
About an hour and 5 minutes.
So hour and 5 plus the hour and